Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed, and we are exploring the negative stages of the hypotheses that outline our soul's development. Now, this is especially interesting because, well, let's review what we covered yesterday. So, yesterday we put together our understanding of the map of our soul's development because we were exploring the idea that there are two things needed: truth and humanness. In other words, it's not just enough to know the truth about what benefits ourselves and our race. We have to recognize that we are humans, and we have to communicate that truth to humans. So, the issue is, of course, if we have to overcome human problems to our growth and development, we have to recognize that we are humans with those problems that block our growth and development. Learning how to overcome our problems is growth and development. So the ability to learn how to solve problems we are blocked from, because that's what a problem is. That's the humanness. Recognizing that. So, and of course, we are seeing this being demonstrated in the book we're reading, as Socrates is doing his best to communicate the truth about self and reality and the nature of the problems human beings face here on this planet to Jesus. And of course, dealing with the human struggles that arise when, so thumbs down for problems, but thumbs up for Socrates. The human problems that arise because of our unsuspected false beliefs that prevent our development of understanding. So truth and humanness. So on the board we have, from last time, the 5 stages of our soul's development: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And one way of understanding that is the bottom 2 are about the physical world, which is in change or becoming, and we relate to through appearances. And there is, of course, a model and activity for each of these, a way of knowing as a whole and a way of understanding its parts. So knowing and understanding. Mind, the same thing. Literally, knowing and understanding refers to the model and activity in mind or being, while the physical world is changing or becoming. The principles that govern our physical world are always the same. So we call it being. So often when people have an experience of their mind withdrawn from their physical senses, they talk about realizing that they are immortal. The mind is eternal or being. So a model and activity, or knowing it as a whole, knowing something as a whole. The word for that is ousia, the capacity for mind to know itself as a whole. The parts we call the logos, the understandable aspects of a whole that allow us to use that whole as a model. So the logos is inherent in the model, or in ousia. Knowing it is knowing. Understanding its parts is understanding. Now, because we talk about knowing and understanding in the physical world, in our regular speak, colloquial speak, we can use the word nous and dianoia. So those are the Greek words that talk about true knowing and true understanding. And the often misquoted quote from Socrates is that you might see from your grandma on a Facebook post. Socrates said he was the wisest person because he knew nothing. That is garbage. That's a misquote. The quote is, I am wiser than these idiots around me because I don't think I know something that I don't. Socrates recognizes knowing is about the model of mind. So anyone who says they have knowing about the physical world experienced through the physical appearances are confusing their beliefs for knowledge. And that's modern philosophy. Socrates calls it philodoxia, lovers of opinions. Kant's opinions, Hegel's opinions, Nietzsche's opinions. And of course, all they use their opinions for is to justify the beliefs they already carry. Because that's the human condition. Talked about this last time. We carry from childhood certain beliefs that allowed our survival within the family clan that were unsuspected because they did not have words. Because our parents or parental surrogates played the king-priest role, taking their own personal beliefs as if it's knowing, and you have to, well, you don't have to, but if you want to survive the family, usually you have to take the blame for their injustice. It's too much of a shock as a small child to see your parents, who you think are the most wise and beautiful things, for what they actually are. They are being very unjust in the moments where we are free and pursuing the logos. So all of these people who have positions of power become actual priests, actual CEOs, actual conservatives, actual politicians. And because we seek knowingness, we seek the second hypothesis, knowingness, but so long as we haven't learnt the dialectic and applied it to surfacing the root cause of our problems, our beliefs, then our life becomes our fate. We're on the train tracks. All we do is look for situations where we can play out this cosplay of knowing with impunity. How can I abuse people the same way I was abused and feel self-righteous about it and get away with it? So lots of injustice in religion, in politics, in capitalism. And we all know that those people get away with it because they write laws that allow them to enact their injustice with impunity. One rule for thee, one rule for me. So we can see that the model and activity from the physical world is a copy or imitation of actual knowing and actual understanding. So the root cause of human problems is the copy or imitation of knowing. As a whole, we call belief. I just know it's true. I can't explain. I just know that Jesus or Mormon Jesus is true. And our activity is to reject our purpose. You can't know God. That's heresy. You're a heathen. You're an infidel. You're a goyim. You can't know the divine. You can't know justice. We can't insist on a knowable model of justice for all of our politicians. There are lots of ways you can oppose our ability to connect with mind. You can say, well, there is no mind. You can say, well, we're just physical things. There is no higher intelligence. You can say that the higher intelligence is beyond us because we are just little peons, bystanders, or collateral damage in a war between God and the devil. Or you can say, well, there might be a higher intelligence that's good, but we can't know it. And of course, there are variations of those. So what have we just done? We've outlined 4 different kinds of ways of opposing our hierarchical development to knowing the truth of self and reality, and of course beyond it to know the self. So while we call the knowing experience the second hypothesis, it's activity, understanding. That's the art we can master in time. Therefore, any intelligent being who has awakened the capacity for self-reflection, ousia, and logos language in the physical world, their goal is to master understanding. The mastery of understanding is called the dialectic. It's how you think, it's how you communicate ideas. It's also the spiritual method, because you're focused on an idea in being. Sustained focus on such an idea is concentration evolving into meditation. If you sustain that with the best dialectics that you're having every day with your friends over coffee, you can join with it. That's the transition from meditation to contemplation. So concentration, sustained is meditation, sustained is joining with it, or contemplation. So that's the archetype for the spiritual tradition. And you can take every aspect involved in the dialectic and compare it to any other spiritual tradition or yoga, and recognize, oh, the only thing worthwhile is a piece. Zen koans take a piece of the dialectic because they have questions. Breath meditation, take a piece because it's sustained focus. And what makes philosophy the archetype is it also has understanding, which everything else lacks. So that's our purpose, to master the third hypothesis, art of dialectic. And our problems are that we don't want to learn it because of our ignorance. We already think we know, fourth hypothesis. And we already think we know how to act based on our knowing, fifth hypothesis. So we take our beliefs in place of knowing. So that's the imitation that you get through appearances. So we often joke about those people and they say they're motivated by shapes and colors. Oh, that person looks like a priest. He must be true. That immigrant looks like a brown person. They must be bad. Incels. That has the shape of a woman. Oh, they must be bad. Nazis, right-wingers, fascists. That has the appearance of a poor person. They must be bad. So, our problems are ignorance, which is a imitation, no understanding. By the way, it's easy to imitate an idiot, to imitate Trump or any one of the staff of the Republicans because they're comically ignorant. But how easy would it be for you to imitate a Socrates character? Imagine a comedian on stage doing an impression of Trump. Very easy and can be funny. But how would they imitate Socrates? Difficult to imitate actual wisdom or understanding, isn't it? I heard someone say once, there are like content creators who play a character. They imitate someone bad for clicks, for entertainment value. But if they're doing it at all times, it's not an imitation. If they're only being a jerk because they stream 24 hours a day or something like that, and that's how they interact with people, then they're just a jerk. Now, if you apply that to understanding, if you imitate a good person who engages with understanding, then you're just doing understanding. You are just being a good person. And the more you do understanding, the harder it is to go back to being ignorant and stupid anymore. Even though you might be told lies like, oh, ignorance is bliss, actually. No, it's the opposite. Bliss is the experience of the knowing experience of the second hypothesis. So yeah, imitate understanding. and you'll be doing it. Because understanding isn't based on appearances, it's based on reason, evidence, principles, cause and effect, axioms, and truth. So human problems are caused by the imitation, fourth and fifth hypothesis in what we call ignorance, the imitation of actual knowing, but how it functions is in opposition. Belief is at war with the whole. And our activity of the fifth hypothesis is to reject or deny our ability to know it. So you can see that very easily in the establishment left wing. They reject our ability to have understandable standards for politicians. Just as a doctor should know the health and excellence of the body, so too a politician should know the health and excellence of the soul, if their job is to make laws and policies to facilitate that. But the establishment left say, no, that's no such thing. Which paves the way for the fascists' fourth hypothesis, who do claim to know something, but their knowledge is just imitation of through belief, to say, yes, my beliefs are the truth. So currently our world is run by fourth hypothesis believers, right-wingers, fascists, religious authorities, capitalists, and they are defended by the bootlickers of the establishment left. Democrats who claim to be progressive, but not really. They don't do anything. They just keep everything the way it is, because who's to say what's right and wrong? If it exists, then I guess it's the winner. Human ignorance, fourth and fifth hypothesis. And as we said, that fourth hypothesis, by definition, if we take all of the building blocks of reality, whole, part, same, different, like, and unlike, these are all of the things that we can understand through understanding and experience directly in knowing, which requires knowing how the parts fit in together into the whole, so whole and parts. Your state of mind of knowing is the greatest whole of all of the greatest parts. Understanding has that state of mind of the whole, but you can function beneficially to people in their parts or in their limits. Limit is on this side, unlimit that side. Whereas belief is an identification with the lesser. I am this part. I accept these limits. I am a Mormon. I only wear Mormon underpants. I only do soaking. They're gooners.
Be a reasonable gooner.
And they're not being a reasonable
Gooners.
At war with the whole. So what are the right-wingers and the religious and groups crying out currently at the time of recording, 2026? We want to murder enough people around the world, innocent people, so that we can start World War III, so the world can end, so Jesus can come back. That's the inevitable conclusion of belief. Because belief can't actually do good. So while ignorance seeks to imitate wisdom, without actual knowing and without actual understanding, if you don't actually know how an engine works and you don't actually understand its parts, you can't fix an engine. So that's the grift. They're trying to get away with hammering away at an engine, hammering away at human souls, at our species, at our planet, destroying our planet, our environment, murdering people en masse, destroying laws and civilization for as long as they can get away with it. And there are two options. We either wake up to this map of the actual knowing and understanding of what human souls are going through. It's just on the board and it's lovely colors, easy to see. Or we be a fifth hypothesis establishment Democrat and allow the fourth hypothesis believers to destroy the planet and our species. Many species have gone extinct. Human beings are next on the chopping block. But if we recognize there is a purpose to our human species within a greater whole of a cosmos and greater intelligence, we can wake up to our purpose of protecting our planet, protecting our species, creating the conditions for the health and excellence of our species so we can meet that destiny, our higher purpose. That's what that word means only. So, simple. 4 steps. These 2 are ignorance is an imitation of the higher 2. Our purpose, therefore, is to master the 3rd hypothesis, because the dialectic is the art that we can master through time. It's the dialectic that can be used in an activity called midwifery or philosophical midwifery, giving birth to ideas that can purify our ignorance, removing our problems, freeing us up to contemplate the model of understanding, which is what we're doing here. So we're engaged in that right now. And then the final step is what Socrates is trying to get Jesus to do: understand even that experience he's had and recognize even that must have a cause, which is beyond, greater, transcending, and causal of that peak experience, the self. So, using understanding to purify belief and ignorance, to know reality, and to go beyond that to know the self. That's it. It's 1 sentence. That's our job here. And a job for all intelligent beings. So, model and copy. So why do we have these extra 5 stages over here? What are they for? And keep in mind, this is states of mind. Yes, they are cognitive functions. Belief, understanding, knowing. That's different ways of grasping and knowing things. Yes, they have different objects. Ignorance is about the physical world through our physical senses, the copy of reality, the copy of the model. Whereas the objects of true understanding, called dianoia, are not. We're not understanding how many beans there are in China. We're understanding the model, mind or being itself. We're understanding being and not beings. That's a good bumper sticker. True understanding, or dianoia, isn't understanding beings, it is understanding beings. That's a lot of fun. Philosophy is a lot of fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the
whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
Right here, we make the best jokes. Dianoia isn't beans, it's beings. Very, very good. Very good. By the way, those beings can be personified in stories that we call gods. So a metaphor or an analogy about the beings in mind, that's theology, or the gods. What color? This one. The gods. Our journey to reach that by overcoming the ignorance and the problems that we experience in our everyday world. That's the hero's journey. And then realizing that there is even a cause to those beings that exist as aspects in the model, the logos within Usia. That cause, if we can call the model a oneness, or a goodness, or a truth, the truth of reality, it must have a cause. For my shirt to have blackness, there has to first be an idea of black. For there to be a oneness, truth, and goodness, there has to be the one, the good, and the true. And that's called the self. So that's a singular or a one. So the god, the gods, and the heroes representations of the aspects or forces or beings within these three fundamental realms: self, mind, and soul. That's theology. Now, that, of course, requires learning and thinking and understanding and going through the hero's journey. But religion doesn't offer that. There's no learning. There's no growth. You get told what to think when you're 3 years old, and you have to never, ever learn or improve. Otherwise, you could go beyond Jesus or beyond Muhammad or beyond Abraham, and that's heresy. So there's no development in religion. So you are the most stupid and ignorant if you're religious, by definition. And if that hurts your feelings, good. Good. Luke Skywalker had to leave the comfort of his moisture farm at the beginning of Star Wars. Harry Potter had to leave his bedroom. Who else do we have as famous hero's journey person? Frodo had to leave the comfort and safety of the Shire in The Hobbit or in The Lord of the Rings, because there was something that made him wake up and realize he's got to do better. Yes, your religion is bullshit by definition, and it's hurting you because it's preventing your hero's journey development. Be a hero. Overcome that. Learn. And those who don't are called barbarians by the Greeks. Now we can go one step further. If we understand the evolutionary history of our species, we can recognize that before we had intelligence, ousia and logos, self-reflection and language, the human tribes that survived were the ones that were blindly loyal to the cave leader, tribe leader, and was afraid of anything different. Anything outside this cave was bad and scary. Saber-toothed tigers and stuff. So just as our childhood false beliefs to save the ignorance of our parents take the blame, that's an injustice, so it causes our anger. The irony being that anger we carry our whole lives until we do philosophical midwifery. We project that onto others. So a good example would be the Jewish people. They were victimized by the Nazis. They carry that anger and they project it on everyone. Anyone challenging their genocide of the Palestinians is victimizing me. They're claiming to be victims. But what's ironic about it is the very thing they think everyone is doing to them, because they're projecting it, the reason they're projecting it is it's their model of knowing, fourth hypothesis, which means if they have any power, they will do that thing because they think that's knowing. So they are doing a genocide while claiming everyone's trying to genocide them. Oh, you criticizing us, don't you say we have the right to exist? What about Hamas? Hamas? It's that simple. The projection and blind spots, therefore, we carry from our childhood, and we had an example within our society as well. The Jews have theirs, the Germans have theirs, etc., etc. Playing it out on others when they have power. But also it goes all the way back to the cave. So we call this a primitive way of being. And just as our childhood false beliefs about ourselves that cause that projection and blind spots or interpretation to add what isn't there or to be blind from what is, even though our individual ones are a kind of solution that no longer apply because we're adults now, we're out of the house, so too pathologos or sick beliefs were a kind of solution to the evolutionary conditions of humanity that no longer applied. So we have to recognize that belief and opposition to truth mind understanding is primitive and savage and barbaric. By definition. Not the same as how racists say, oh, you're a savage because you're black, or you're primitive because you're in the wrong religion. No, 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 no. Just because they use those words in a shitty way doesn't mean everyone has to. Just because Trump says injustice is justice doesn't mean there's no justice. Just because religious people lie about God doesn't mean there's no God. But ignorance is a primitive condition, and its functioning is savage. Our job is to move from savages to sages, from primitives into philosophers. By definition, that's not a matter of opinion. That's verifiable, because all of these ideas are dianoia. They're ideas that are eternal. So, these are states of mind. Why is that really right here? Why is that right there? Is that my lighting? A little bit. So these are states of mind we move through, but they're all present. There has to be. There has to be. For if there is a physical world, there has to be, and in the physical world, therefore, has a cause, has a model. So all of the principles that we learn about in physics or in math or ultimately in philosophy exist all over the world. 2 and 2 will be 4 in any country, in any planet, in any universe. So these things have to have an eternal existence in the paradigm or the model. Second hypothesis. So mind uses itself as a model to create the copy of the physical world. For so long as there is a physical universe, and by the way, would intelligence be lacking if it didn't have the ability to create something like itself? So perhaps there will always be a physical world at that dimension of reality. If so, and it's based on model to copy, there must also be a kind of imitation experienced in intelligent beings in their mind. A physical copy, mental copy. Therefore, ignorance or fourth and fifth hypothesis have to exist. And if it wasn't existing in that way and causing all of the terrible problems we face, we would have no reason to wake up and do the work of the hero's journey to move out of the physical world to reach truth through knowing and understanding. So even though they suck when you're in them, as your own state of mind, or as your own species, or as your own stage within a species development, they have to exist. In principle, modeled copy, both in the physical and the mental, but also for our providence, for our intelligent care, to give us the stakes to leave the Shire, the motivation to show that problems are understandable. All human problems are understandable and solvable because they are simply fourth and fifth imitation of second and third. So there's a line of reflection between the third and fourth. And as we said, the third hypothesis is where it's at. It's where we do the things. That's the activity. Third hypothesis. Our state of mind is the second, and the self is the first, giving us the threesome or triad of the self. The activity of 3 is what we need to master. I was crossing this line. So it has to exist. And we have a spammer.
The internet is all robots.
And the internet is robots.
This guy's doing something worse than slop with AI. This is like sludge.
Sludging spammer. What do you say,
Like
Slam?
literally,
Spammer?
suck my dick, dude.
Robots will replace that, and that's terrifying. This is like even worse than AI sludge somehow.
That's you, Spammer. Right, so they have to exist. So the idea of punishment for this reason alone, as well as many, many other reasons we've already covered, is stupid. To say, oh, you've got a false belief. No shit, you've been a human being. If you didn't have a false belief, why would you be here? If we could just stay in the realm of mind and journey through that to reach the self, where Socrates is, with fellow men humans who've completed their work here, gods and spirits who are friends and fellow adventurers and guides on an even greater journey. Why aren't we on that journey? Why are we all the way down in hell, Hades? Where we experience fourth and fifth ignorance and belief and the injustice, death, destruction, torture, and suffering they inflict. Because we're here to learn. We're here to address those beliefs. That's the learning. The learning is purifying fourth belief and perfecting third hypothesis understanding. So to say, oh, you're ignorant, therefore punish you, is fucking stupid. It's anti-human. It's anti-reason. It's cruelty and savage. But it's something you can do as a believer. You can't fix a computer without understanding, or a body without understanding medicine, or a engine without understanding mechanics. But you can destroy, you can punish, you can torture under the idea of punishment. That's why when religious or right-wing or capitalists are in charge, they murder people all the time. And they like it. That's why they do it for fun on Epstein Island. Sadism. The addiction to the fourth hypothesis as the highest good is sadism. That's the sickness that we are in. Therefore, because we haven't recognized this map yet as a species, we can call this Hades. Because those people seek rulership positions. Hey, believers can't be mechanics, can't be surgeons, can't be pilots, but they can be politicians, they can be clergy and priests and imams and rabbis. They can be capitalists if they're born into wealth. And these are the three who have the power. So Hades. We're in an upside down world because we are allowing ourselves to be ruled by the ignorance. In sport, doesn't work that way. You can't believe you're good at basketball and win a place on the Lakers. In fact, we give millions and millions of dollars for those who have demonstrated an understanding and mastery of the sport. Rich people do the same for doctors, while inflicting harm on others by taking away healthcare or minimizing it. So we acknowledge the difference between good and bad for basketball. We are living in Hades because we haven't yet acknowledged it for the soul. That's what we're doing here, we're learning it. So these are states of mind that have to exist, that you can move in and out of as your soul going through your soul's journey. So why these 5 here? Why these extra 5? That's the question for today. Okay, I'm back. So our question is, got my coffee. Why these extra ones? Well, we have the ability to expand these first 5 positions that all have to exist, so we could call them positives, and say we could have a kind of things that don't exist, or opposing 4 kinds of, and 5 if we add 1, 5 kinds of opposition to these levels of reality and stages of our soul's development that have to necessarily exist. So while we can say our human problems are ignorance, which can be understood as a cognitive function of belief we carry from childhood, that functions in our activity that opposes our mind and understanding, because we got beliefs when we were open and free as a child in our house, but that would threaten the sanctity of the family way of being and the rulership of our parents' ignorance. So that would mean the family would have to grow and evolve, the parents would have to learn, grow, and evolve, but very, very, very few, if any, parents are willing to do that. So instead they inflict punishment, well, not just punishment. There are lots of ways of taking away rewards or just giving a look, implied threats. They inflict their own ignorant false beliefs. You have to think this way. And that's what we imitate. The appearance of that parent in that act of injustice becomes our model of justice. So we can see ignorance is actually the imitation of justice. Vice is the imitation of virtue. Ignorance is pseudo-beauty, pseudo-knowing. The ways in which we can act out that ignorance, we could more specifically specify as the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, because all of these are a rejection of those other stages that have to exist. So it's an expanded map. Expanded map. So the one that we're working with, the easiest one to start with, is the 9th. Because 9th is nihilism. It's the lowest. So we could say that all of these are states of mind that we can move through. While in another way, understanding these 4 or 5 as kinds of ignorances. If we're blocked. Now, belief, there are different kinds of belief we've explored. Of the categories of belief, we have simple beliefs that we hope is actually a trust in understanding, axiomatic beliefs or principles that we hope is a trust in philosophy, dianoia, but only so far as we take that as a stepping stone to get into it. So those aren't really beliefs. We have supernatural beliefs. Can't be proven. Was Mary a virgin to Jesus? Can't prove it. Believe it anyway. Prejudice beliefs. Disproven by evidence and reason. But the thing about these is, whether it's just simple prejudices from your upbringing or whatever, or religious shit, there is a potential to learn when introduced to actual evidence and reason that shows. So people, back when the internet was new, people were saying the internet is going to be the death of religion. Because people recognize you're only religious because you've been insulated in a certain family and society which feeds you all these bullshit lies. That's why Mormons only live in Mormon town. And Muslims live in Muslim town. And Jews live in Jewland. And Christians live in, or Anglicans live in England. And all of the baby Muslims have Muslim parents. What a coincidence. It's very well known, of course, with the introduction of the internet and the consolidation of wealth and power by the capitalist conservatives and clergy, the propaganda campaign has been amplified also. But we all thought, oh yeah, it's going to be the end of religion. Thank fuck. Because now you have an opportunity to communicate to those scary Muslims and realize they're just like you, and also learn information other than what your parents or priest tells you. So with new evidence and reason, new experiences and thinking, it'll be the death of these things. And for many, it is. So while religious or supernatural beliefs can't be proven or are disproven, and prejudiced beliefs are disproven, racist, sexist, all that shit, all the stuff Elon Musk posts about, black people being bad because of the size of their brains and shit like that, disproven, and women being bad because of more Nazi heterophobic bullshit. With new evidence and reason, you can change. Now the problem is, if we are blocked from letting go of that, because as the Oracle says,
Personality maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person, and it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I? I.
So it's the things that are personal. When we identify with one of these kinds of beliefs, that's called the pathologos. It's unsuspected, so we don't even know that we carry it. We take it for granted. Our whole life has been in fate, so we've been further entrenching our identification with that mask. But that's the one that functions to oppose evidence and reason completely. For those who never grow out of their crazy religion, or grow out of their ignorance, or grow out of their prejudice. Which means all of the different worldviews that oppose reality and its different stages of reality can be the different kinds of beliefs or pathologos we have. Fourth hypothesis. And as they are all in opposition to these stages, they are different ways of opposing truth or reality or mind. Nihilism. So while the fifth hypothesis says, well, if there is something higher, we can't know it because we are only in the physical world. We are only a part. We can never be a whole. So it draws the line there. Atheists, or strict agnostics. Agnostic means you can't know. Weak agnostic means I'm open to it, but strong agnostic means you can't know. We can never know. How could God would just treat us like ants? Believers say, well, there might be a higher level, but it's just the fourth. The best we can do is be a part of a group and feel like something bigger than ourselves. So if there are certain popular philosophers on YouTube, that's their highest way of being. Feeling like part of a collective. They want a family around them. They want groups. They want a community. And they often defend religion. Yes, all religions are good because it makes you feel like something bigger than yourself. That's their highest experience of one, as a oneness of physical parts as a whole. And you'll see them defending the existence of religion. I saw a Theo Vaughn clip the other day of someone doing that. And all of the comments were like, what the fuck? Which was positive. Why are you defending religion? Why are you saying religion's a good thing? The loss of religion isn't a bad thing, you idiot. That's the comments, which is good. So nihilism is to say, hey, this thing that you said is your highest idea of one, parts in the physical world, even that doesn't exist. Therefore, there's no meaningful activity in the physical world. There aren't even parts that are worth doing. Nihilism. So how can we use that as a model to understand these negative hypotheses? And by the way, if we understand them sufficiently, says Socrates, they should show the necessity for the thing that they deny. Which means if you find yourself in that nihilist state of mind, doomer-pilled, black-pilled, if you understand it properly, you might become free of that state of mind and its negative fate. That's super important, because right at the end of the book, Socrates is in a discussion with Jesus about the seventh hypothesis, good versus evil. So that's not nihilism. Nihilism said there isn't any higher principle. There's not even physical things. Seventh hypothesis says, yep, I'm okay with physical parts. I'm okay with physical wholes. I'm in the realm of mind, but my level of mind is a rejection of the logos. Everything we've been learning about this hierarchical stage of development, how our goal is the self, anything that makes you a follower, help others, be a slave, be selfless, is bullshit. The self is most important. How can you help others if you are not yourself knowing the truth? That's secondary. There's a providential communication through each of our problems that are understandable. Even our ignorance is understandable through the dialectic. Our dreams and philosophical midwifery is our method. There is no evil, it's just a diminished reflection, and it diminishes from the self and its highest into the model or mind, into lesser and levels of ignorance and mediocrity. So all of those aspects of the logos that allow for meaningful development are rejected in the seventh hypothesis. There's no meaningful development, there's no providence, there's no higher communication. It's a battleground between good versus evil, and we are just collateral damage. And we need to kill as much people and hope that one of the gods or saints or angels comes back, and they are the only ones who can defeat the evil of being brown, or being a non-capitalist, or being a woman, or being a non-Jew, or being a non-Mormon. Only that, because they are blocked from understanding those things. So it's a kind of fourth hypothesis belief they're attached to, and would rather kill everyone than change. That's the pathologos. A kind of fifth hypothesis opposition to truth and development, defined specifically by a rejection of the third. That's the seventh hypothesis. And that's the conversation that's happening. Because we've been seeing that what Socrates is doing with Jesus, Socrates is someone who personifies the top three. The self, the state of mind of nous, and the activity of understanding. Ruling, power, activity. That's the triad for all things that exist. Everything that exists has to have some sort of existence, have some sort of power, and have some sort of activity that it uses the power to do. Philosophy is the activity is reading that we're doing, Apollo. Reflection with our friends to bring it into a whole and apply it to our life that inspires us, Aphrodite. And if we do both of those things, we will end up mastering Hermes, the dialectic. Hermes is the ruler, or the highest form of existence, or the fullest flowering, the art we're here to master. The power is when we bring it together into a whole, beauty that's beautiful and inspiring and meaningful. And to have the parts that harmoniously connect, that we use to bring into a whole, we need to be reading. Socrates said, I started in the seventh hypothesis. There's no meaning. Some cosmic conflict between good and evil, that's also within our soul, so I'm always in conflict, and there's nothing important, no meaningful activity. It's a rejection of the logos. But then I saw there was a harmony, Apollo, in beautiful music. And when I reflected on it, Aphrodite, I wondered if there was also a harmony within reality higher than music. And then he discovered philosophy. read Apollo, reflected Aphrodite, and then came to meet his teacher Parmenides, who showed him Hermes, the dialectic. And that dialectic allowed him to remove his own blocks and problems through dream analysis. So that's a fantastic archetype of the hero's journey for all of us. Fun?
Honestly, on the real, I say stuff like that.
It's not being crazy. It's called reaching a higher sense of
Being.
We're not being crazy, we're reaching a higher sense of being. So, if that's, and we talked about last time how this seventh hypothesis is not only the culmination of this masterpiece fucking banger of a book, but it's very common. Good versus evil, good guys versus bad guys, hot versus cold, Republicans versus Democrats. No meaning, just say your prayers, obey your boss at work, pay your taxes, vote for red or blue, and die for Israel. Go to war against the Iranians for the capitalists, for the religious Jewish Zionists, and the Christians, so they can bring the end of the war for Jesus to come back. For the conservatives to make their profits and keep doing Epstein Island shit with no repercussions. Seventh hypothesis. Or, even if you're not religious, you could say, well, yeah, there are thoughts in mind. Remember, this is level of mind. Mind, over here. But it's just opinions, bro. Your opinion versus my opinion. We're all entitled to our opinion. Your opinion's not more or less true than mine. It's just a matter of perspective. That's the Democrats. Yeah. You think we shouldn't do fascism and murder? Those guys really want to, and they have all the money. So if there's no right or wrong, I'm just going to take my money and maintain this system of corruption and oppression, says left-wing Democrats. They're not true politicians. Scammers. Ignorant. So, very, very common. Perhaps the most common. And if our purpose is to master the third and the seventh is in opposition to the third, it might be the most dangerous for humanity and for our own souls. So we want to understand exactly that. How can we? Well, we have seen that along with these... Oh, Jesus. Come on.
Dude, suck my dick.
For making an error.
What the hell kind of a show is this? What is this, the comedy mothership?
Yeah, that was a pretty funny comment. We have a lot of fun here.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Filled with funny secrets. So, for each of these 5 stages of development we've been looking at, the humanist is recognizing there are 5 stages of interpretation. That seems a bit thin. Needs to be thicker. That's what she said.
Wrong. You're so wrong. But that's okay. We're all allowed to be wrong sometimes.
Oh my goodness, am I?
Jesus is gonna come down and wipe this place out. Who cares?
Ah, calm down. I think calm down. So the... Oops, not that color. What color? Five I, the 5th kind of interpretation. 4I, 3I, 2I, and 1I. So we have these kinds of interpretation that get in the way of us progressing. And the bottom one is to reject the logos and introduce the pathologos. But we've also got another set of 5. The way in which humans oppose new understanding. We talk about how people Start by ignoring. Get rid of this down here. If you come across someone who expresses something that challenges your own personal beliefs or pathologos, your first reaction will be to ignore them. When you can't ignore them, you will mock them. Gang up. Look at this guy. Ha 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 ha. Look at this idiot challenging our established order, our pecking order, our ways of being, our ways of doing things, who we say is leader. Look at this person challenging Jesus, going beyond our teacher. Fuck this guy. Let's all gang up on him and mock him. Ha 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 ha. When that doesn't work, threaten. Hey, do as we say or we'll get you. Send you to jail. Threaten. It doesn't work. You can exile them. You can't come to Jesus camp. You can't come to the Sunday picnic. You can't be a member of our tribe. We're not inviting you to Thanksgiving. You're not a real Jew unless you support our genocide. Exile. That doesn't work. Kill. Pages of human history are soaked in blood. By the way, there's a book called the 20th Century Book of the Dead that outlines how more people have been murdered by their own government in peacetime than have been killed by others in war. Worth considering that our enemies aren't the scary other, but our own allowing for ignorance to rule and not demanding wisdom as the qualification. So, does this shine any light? Can we say ninth hypothesis nihilism is ignoring everything? Being black-pilled? Is the fifth kind of interpretation an ignoring of this new truth completely and instead introducing your own pathologos, your own belief? How do eighth hypothesis people respond to believers? Do they mock? These people who think there's a meaningful activity and a meaningful whole you can participate in the world, don't they realize that we're all just stupid atoms? Their idea of participating in the physical world in a greater whole through love or connection, that's just chemicals in their brain. Don't they realize? Beautiful painting that you can experience in the physical world, that's just paint on a canvas, right? Those ads we see on YouTube of the cool, handsome actor stapling a banana to the wall and saying, that's art. It's just something like a stupid banana. Don't think there's any meaningful whole in the physical world. That I'm mocking. What's the fourth kind of interpretation? We're not completely rejecting, we are offering our alternative beliefs. The eighth hypothesis people, they're accepting that there are parts in the physical world, but only parts. As atheists ignore even parts and say there's no meaningful activity, eighth hypothesis say there's no meaningful whole. Beauty. It's a meaningful whole. Third interpretation, taking a piece of the new idea, like the Kabbalah, taking a piece of philosophy and putting it into their religion. It's the Kabbalah. Sephardic religion. Is threatening like that? For you to threaten, are you taking a piece of this new person's idea on board to see it as a threat? Say, hey, if you do this thing, I'm not ignoring that thing that you're saying. I'm not mocking that thing I'm saying. I'm taking it seriously to a degree. If you do that thing that I'm not ignoring, it's so serious that I will threaten you. So I'm not even mocking it. Does that fit? What does seventh hypothesis do? Threaten. You're a bad guy. I will threaten you with my guns. That's why we need lots of guns. Good guy with a gun needs to shoot a bad guy with a gun. You can't solve problems with understanding, systemic change, meeting people's material conditions, taking away any profit incentive to violence. No. You have to just shoot. Is that a kind of ignorant threatening? Taking a piece. Oh yeah, there are problems in the world that nihilists ignore, or materialists and reductionists mock. Problems in the world. That's just your chemicals firing. Love in the world, beauty in the world. That's just your chemicals. There are problems and higher. So, problems and higher excellence. That we address problems through the dialectic of midwifery and excellence through the dialectic of the self-logos. We're not doing that, of course. That's what we should be doing. But there are problems, but we threaten them. Is that their idea of beauty as well? Do these seventh hypothesis religious people involve threats in their idea of what it means to be beautiful, to mean knowing? Are the Jewish Zionists threatening all the time? Are the Christians threatening? You're homosexual, you go to hell. You don't believe in Jesus, you go to hell. Are the Mormons? You don't wear the magic underpants. You don't do the soaking, you go to hell.
Goon, 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 goon.
Goon, 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 goon.
Goon, 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 goon.
Goon, 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 goon.
Damn, you really are a gooner.
And they're really a gooner.
I'm gonna get you. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I am gonna get you.
Is that what they say? Threatening. Is that taking a piece within their already held beliefs? Third level of interpretation? Does that shine light on the functioning of the seventh hypothesis? Whereas the third hypothesis isn't threatening. It's providence. It's care. Intelligent care. Communicated to us in every moment through our thoughts, our random thoughts, our tangents, our fantasies, our daydreams, and especially our night dreams, and the problems that we live. Exile. Second hypothesis is the whole, which is the model of true knowing. Sixth hypothesis is a rejection of that. Second level of interpretation is to try and unify the logos with beliefs. Save both. Save your problems. Oh yeah, this logo stuff is good. I can't really ignore it or reject it. Or rub out this dot here. Is this kind of a kind of unity like the second hypothesis is a kind of unity? What's exile? Is it a kind of trying to preserve the unity of the group by exiling those that are different? In order to unify philosophy and whatever stupid belief you already have, do you have to conveniently exile? So this is philosophy and this is your dumb beliefs. Do you have to conveniently ignore or exile, kick out all of those things that show that beliefs are the cause of human problems and suffering? So you just keep this part that can overlap? Let's kick it out. Oh, I don't think that's true philosophy. That philosophy part about midwifery, no, I don't think Socrates actually said that. That stuff about dreams, I don't think that's... Yeah, some people in the chat once came in. I don't get a lot of people in chat. Yeah, that stuff about Parmenides teaching the dialectic, oh, those dates don't match. We can kick that out. Just ignore that. Not ignore it, kick it out. I'm acknowledging that you think it. I'm not mocking it. I'm not threatening you. But I think we should just leave it out. Don't read that book. Don't read the books you're reading on the stream. 2, what? Preserve the unity, it's like the second hypothesis, but it's a unity of your own dumb beliefs along with whatever philosophy that you are learning. Second interpretation, saving the old with the new. By exiling anything different. So will that help us shine light on the 6th hypothesis? So keep in mind, we're saying, look, all of these -5 hypotheses can function as the specific kinds of 4th hypothesis belief. Like that's the character maxing.
No, you're not. The personality maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person. And it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I?
So if you identify with any of these positions, it's your 4th hypothesis pathologos. If it's what you use in your activity to reject your learning of dialectic and true philosophy, which is your purpose as an intelligent being or a human soul, then it's your version of your 5th hypothesis. So in other words, you're not just in one. These are states of mind you can move in and out of. You can be a fervent believing state of mind. Oh yes, I'm such a believer. Or you could be a nihilist. What I believe in is that there's nothing true. I'm sad now. I was fervently believing when I was defending nihilism, but when I'm actually feeling it, I'm in the 9th hypothesis, and I'm sad because there's nothing real, and I'm very lonely. So our second class of interpretation is to try and unify the old and the new, which is very much like the second hypothesis, which is the unity of whole and parts, but different. And we exile anything that challenges that unity. We conveniently kick it out. Does that help us understand the 6th hypothesis? So, 6th hypothesis. You're okay with there being parts and wholes in the physical world? You're not opposed to there being molecules and physical reality? You're not opposed to there being beauty and problems? That our problems as a kind of whole, and our excellence or beauty or greatness experiences as a kind of whole that we experience in the physical world. You're okay with that? So you're not in the 8th and 9th. You're okay with there being some kind of reasoning or activity of mind that we can engage in to address human problems or human excellence. What you're opposed to is there being a universal, objective standard and model for the whole of mind. So whole and parts go up here as well, ousia and logos. Anything that shows that there is a universal, knowable, objective standard for the whole of the benefit of the individual or the species or the collective, you will exile that. We don't talk about that here. What we do is talk about our own idea of a whole. And anything that opposes it, we just kick it out. So we can participate in this idea of wholeness, of mind, so we can address human problems and human excellence. But so long as we can also, second interpretation, keep our own personal beliefs. Now, there are a couple of examples for this. Isms. Marxism, capitalism, socialism, Nazism. Is that a way of trying to bring a whole when they market Nazism or whatever ism? Are they saying, hey, this is how we solve problems? We exile all the immigrants. We exile all the non-whites. We kick women out from participation in politics. So we can create a whole that will finally address the problems caused by the immigrants, the poors, the non-whites, and reach the excellence of the, what is that crazy Indian podcaster that Trump appointed for the FBI? Patel, what does he say? Valhalla. We'll reach Valhalla. And we'll all be drinking whole milk. Whole milk is a dog whistle for Nazis because apparently white people have an enzyme that helps them digest milk better. So all of this "we'll drink milk in Valhalla" is Valhalla is also a reference to as a Nazi dog whistle. So Kaj Patel or whatever, the non-white, is trying to make sure that if he does enough fascism with the fascist Nazis, he won't be exiled. He won't be kicked out. A lot of ICE members are the same thing. Some people who vote for Trump are the same thing. I'm a good Mexican. I voted for fascism of Trump. And then when ICE knocks on their door, they're saying, oh, the face-eating leopard party are eating my face. Sixth hypothesis, the isms. There is a whole of mind, but not a whole of ousia and logos. There isn't an objective standard that is knowable, second hypothesis, and rational as the model or the understandable ousia or nous. In other words, we don't need politicians who have knowledge. We don't need religious officials who have knowledge. There is no such thing. It's just what we have decided. Marxism, socialism, capitalism. And that's not to say that there is no hierarchical arrangement. Of course, we had someone yesterday saying, oh, capitalism is good and socialism is evil. That is so fucking ignorant. I didn't even know how to start with that. I should have just told them, you might want to first define your terms. They said socialism is ruled by an elite few, which is the exact opposite. It's to share wealth and power with the many. So you're so ignorant that I didn't know how to address that. But that's the only thing that I am worried that I lament about being a small channel. Like, I don't really care that I don't get 50,000. Like, I joke about Hassan Piker having 50,000 viewers and Asmongold having 50,000, although 80% are probably bots. I joke about that. But I realize that we're engaged in the third hypothesis in this channel. We're doing this. And as we said, seventh hypothesis is the most common belief in our society. So almost everyone is opposed to understanding. Only a small few who really love understanding. Or let's read it in the book. Let's read it in the book. Socrates says it nicely. He says, look, Jesus, I seldom express this openly because it's met with such scorn when it is shared. Unless the audience has a high level of intelligence, it will likely be rejected. Also, he says, many cultures consider this heretical. So unless you have a high level of intelligence, or really a love of understanding that's sufficient for you to overcome your loyalty to your beliefs that you get in childhood, you're likely going to be, you're going to be ruled in some way by your ignorance, unless your love of understanding, philodianoia, is strong enough, your curiosity and love of understanding is strong enough to overcome the ignorance from your upbringing. You're going to be in one of these positions. Most common, seventh. There are some black pill people, nihilists, who won't even engage in an activity because there's no point. They'll have eighth hypothesis materialists who will just see the word philosophy and mock it. I'm smarter because I'm a scientist. They'll offer their own interpretation, fourth interpretation, mock, fourth kind of rejection. There'll be some seventh hypothesis people who check in every now and then to threaten socialism is evil. That's just your opinion. Who are you to say? You should read these other books. Like, there's only a limited amount you can threaten on YouTube or Twitch chat. Therefore, it seems to me that the most receptive kinds of people, or this most receptive kind of ignorance that we all carry from childhood, unless we've done enough work in philosophical midwifery, and very few people have done enough work in philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, the best is the sixth. People who are okay with understanding, okay with their existing problems and excellences as wholes in the physical world. Whoops. What the fuck? So they're okay with there being parts in the physical world. They're not nihilists. They're okay with there being wholes of problems and excellences. They're not materialists or reductionists. They're even okay with there being reasoning of some kind. So they're not seventh hypothesis. Their kind of block is the sixth. Yes, I like the idea of understanding. I love understanding, in fact. And I like the idea of addressing problems and reaching excellence through understanding. But I'm not willing to challenge all beliefs. Some religious people are nice. Some belief groups are okay, maybe. The old lady at the end of the street, she doesn't do anyone any harm. What about her kids? What about when she told her daughter she's an evil sinner because she tricks men and the Bible said women are less than men? Yes, old lady at the end of the street might seem nice and polite when she has no power, especially if she fears those in power to be believers like her, but her kids are getting that shit. And if she does have power, she gets that shit. And if a fascist Christo-nationalist like the Trump Nazis get in power, she will vote for Trump. It's not neutral. Talking about Professor Dave Explains, similar question. He's someone who loves understanding enough to do science, but he's a different kind of scientist that isn't in the eighth hypothesis. He sees that there are problems in politics. That's better. That's why he's on my soundboard. Where is he?
We definitely are not born with a starter kit of beliefs, buddy. Religion is shoved into children's brains forcibly through indoctrination, and if it's any kind of fundamentalism, it's essentially child abuse. Even if a kid was to come to this conclusion totally out of their own accord, that there is a divine entity that created everything, it sure as fuck wouldn't be the malicious sociopathic god that you assholes worship.
Everything was great in that sentence except for one word. That's what a dialectician does. He looks at the words you're using, creates the environment and conditions for self-reflection on your highest vision, second hypothesis, with your highest words. Says there's not going to be any punishment or abuse, because that's fourth and fifth hypothesis. And looks for the words that you use in that dialectic. What was the key word? That shows Professor Dave has a place on the soundboard because he's a rare kind of person whose problem isn't 9th, 8th, or 7th, but 6th. What makes him rare as a scientist first? Well, many materialist scientists, reductionists, reducing everything to atoms and molecules and firing. I'm sure he has some of that. I bet if we asked him about dreams, he'll probably say it's just neurons firing. There's no higher message from a divine intelligence about your dreams. I'm not certain, but that would be my bet if I was a betting man. I'd place 5 cents on that. But what makes him different is he's using his platform to address human problems in our world and try and make change for human excellence. Very few people do that. In fact, there's a YouTube slop person that's quite funny sometimes that I watch. It's called Too Lazy to Try, or it might not be him or someone like him. Anyway, it surprised me he did a piece on Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker went to Cuba to try and shed light on the injustice that's being suffered, the problems that are faced by innocent civilians in Cuba because of the pseudo-excellence of capitalism. Fascists in American politics who are starving, what's the other word? Putting embargoes on Cubans because they wanted to be free and have excellence for themselves. That threatens the family way of being of oppression and capitalist sadistic violence and fuckery, so they are abused. Hassan Piker tried to do something good that will help everyone, and this guy and a lot of his chat people, not all of them, most of them were saying, that's pretty fucked take, dude. He's trying to do good. Tried to abuse him. How dare he try and address problems? If he's a millionaire, then he's benefited from capitalism. He's got a nice house and nice clothes. He can't do good. Be a regular millionaire and do harm. And my comment was, why are you fighting against your own interests? Does a doctor have to look exactly like his patient to help his patient? Just because he's not poor and has nice clothes and a nice house doesn't mean he can't help or he shouldn't help. In fact, he should fucking help if he has the privilege. Oh no, he didn't help in a proper way. And the question was, don't you want capitalist problems to end? If your critique is his clothes were too nice, or he benefited from capitalism so he shouldn't want to remove it, is stupid, because that means no one can ever, if everything is run under capitalism and religious authority, then to challenge the cause of human suffering can't be allowed, because That's just pathologos. You can't go against your family clan way of being. It's fucking stupid ignorance. So even that guy's in this problem. What's the problem? Eighth hypothesis. He can't recognize that there are problems or excellences. So who is this guy? Shouldn't he just be being a quiet millionaire and using his money to crypto scam people like the other good millionaires? It's pretty fucked. Just like a rare person trying to do good in the world and risking everything to do so. And your reaction was, no, his clothes were too nice. He's talking to poor people. He should wear poor people clothes. So fucking stupid. What a hypocrite. Trying to end capitalism, but he benefited from capitalism. He didn't benefit from capitalism. He benefited in spite of capitalism. And the benefit was pretty fucking shit. He lives in a world where because he looks brown, he could be thrown in a concentration camp at any moment. You think he's benefited because he gets a nice car in the meantime. So, Hassan Piker, someone who is not eighth hypothesis rejecting of problems or ninth hypothesis rejecting of even a physical world, and not even seventh hypothesis, we should just kill all the evil Cuban children because they're future socialists. It's evil. No, he's got enough. He's rational enough that his problem isn't one of those three, making him a rare kind of streamer, which is why I refer to him when I say 50,000 of his viewers. But he's in the sixth. The whole that he still has a problem, he still has his pathologos, he still hasn't mastered the dialectic, so he's not in the third or second yet, and he still has his fourth or fifth problems. But the flavor of his is one of the better ones, sixth hypothesis. He wants a whole in mind, so ousia and logos, I should put whole in mind. Make some space for it. So he wants a greater whole of the world, and he wants to use mind to reach it, and not guns and bombs and tanks and starvation and genocide and Epstein Island bullshit. Whole and part. And the kind of ousia and logos of the physical world is pseudo. Fake. P-S-Y-U-D-O. Is that how you spell pseudo? Hold, please. Here is a quote.
There's only two options at the end of an argument. One, you're wrong, but now you always get to be right about that topic going forward, so you get to learn something, which is always a plus. Or two, you're right and you get to revel in being right. It's a win-win-win.
P-S-E-U-D-O. There's no Y. Why do I always think there's a Y in there? P-S-E-U-D-O. Pseudo-ousia. So fake knowing, fake justice, fake wisdom. And P-S-E-U-D-O. Pseudo-logos. So their use of language is to oppose their own benefit. Shut up about philosophy. Shut up about mysticism. Shut up about a true paradigm. It's one way of using logos. So, but it's the savage way. So savage, primitive, because it's from our early evolution, a problem that no longer applies, like our individual problems. Surviving our childhood, but no longer applies. What color? This one. Primitive. Primate. Damn it. Primitive. Savage. Human nature. So animals never treat each other this way. Humans are uniquely cruel because we are in the stage of ignorance. Pseudo Usia, pseudo logos, primitive and savage. And this is evolved, and a sage. That's Usia and logos. So, the better kinds of people will seem to have sixth hypothesis problem. So Hassan Piker has been talking about, well, he's actually recognizing that, hey, there are certain people who are in group identity fourth hypothesis. We need to appeal to even those people. In other words, Trump has rallies. Trump appeals to the Christians. So there are 30 to 40% of people who will always vote for whatever fascist who is actively hurting them so long as they claim to be the leader of their team. I'm team Christian. I'm team right wing. I'm team MAGA. Trump said himself, I could kill someone in the street and they would cheer. The Epstein files, he did worse. He murdered, raped, tortured, abused children en masse for decades and nothing. Hassan is saying we need to appeal to those sorts of people. There is a better group you can be a part of. You can be team goodness. His issue is he is in opposition to that standard being a universal truth that we can apprehend through pure consciousness. So he's in his ism. It's a better ism. Socialism, Marxism, something that helps the whole, something that cares for the well-being of people is better than capitalism, which actively tries to hurt people for personal profit. So a fuck ton better. But if he's in opposition to the second hypothesis, can he become a philosopher and learn what is actually needed to fix human problems? Because the actual solution to human problems is in the dialectic of the third hypothesis, with reference to the model of excellence of our soul and our society and humanity, which is the second. Beauty, justice exists there. But if you reject that there is that kind of thing, why would you get into philosophy? But they are not seventh. Good team versus bad team. Good guys versus bad guys. They're not eighth. There is no problems. It's just all chemicals. They're not ninth. There's nothing. Everything is just illusion. Give up. Which means their love of understanding, if they've got a good head, and their desire to solve problems caused by fourth hypothesis belief. So if they have a good head and a good heart, their love of understanding and their empathy for other human beings might be enough to make them curious enough to listen to what we do here. That's also Emma.
The more holes, the better.
That's right, Emma.
Absolutely gooped.
That's more of a gooner.
Goon, 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 goon.
Goon, goon, goon.
Gooners.
Gooners.
You can be a gooner.
Rare. How many people, like, there's an interview a few days ago with Emma on CNN where she was talking about the genocide and all of these fascist Nazi fucks were shouting over her. Cowardly men shouting over a woman who was the only one speaking truth. And the reporters, not in the third hypothesis. And those cowardly fucks, seventh. We have to solve problems by killing people who are different. Emma's saying, fuck that. We can bring ourselves into a greater whole through mind, the use of our mind. You don't solve problems with our physical guns. You solve problems with mind and reasoning and understanding to bring ourselves into a greater whole. Very rare. Same thing for Professor Dave. Oh, and that quote we had from him.
Cool as a cuke.
This guy had to admit,
We definitely are not born with a starter kit of beliefs, buddy. Religion is shoved into children's brains forcibly through indoctrination, and if it's any kind of fundamentalism, it's essentially child abuse.
See the word? Fundamentalism. That's the word. That's his problem. So he's a rare scientist because he is not eighth hypothesis. He's saying that there are problems. That's a win. He's a rare scientist in that he is not opposed to universal reasoning and principles. But he still has a problem. What's the problem of the sixth? You want to save both. Second interpretation. I like solving problems. I like reason and understanding. I've got a good heart and a good head, but I don't want to challenge all beliefs. Only fundamentalist beliefs should go. My beliefs, or my mummy's beliefs, or my dear Saint grandma's belief should be allowed. Why? What about her kids? Let's say she's married someone who's also religious and lets him torture her daughter because she's a sinner. Oh, but she's not. She's not a fundamentalist. She's a regular Christian. She just thinks women are less than men because her priest told her. Yes, that harms her children and her. She matters. She matters. Her children matters. And maybe one day she will have power and then she'll do that Christian bullshit on them. Or Muslim bullshit or whatever bullshit it is. Zionists, hey, how many people in Israel support the genocide of Palestinian children? It's more than 80%. Is that an issue? That's the key word. That's his problem. Hassan Piker, same thing. Well, similar, not same, not similar. I don't know enough about him, but the fact that he's a guest on the Majority Report with Emma. Sixth. These seem to be the best sorts of people more open to real philosophy. Because they're not seventh. They allow for the logos, and that's the most important thing. Showing once again, the seventh hypothesis is the most dangerous. While the ninth hypothesis is the most miserable and lonely and depressing, the opposition to logos is the danger one. But again, good heart, good head may be enough to overcome the sixth hypothesis. Someone like Emma or Hassan might be the sort of people who would listen to someone like me or Socrates or the author of this book. In my experience, these have been the sort of people, rare, 1 in a million sorts of people. But can we also understand their problem? Their problem is they want second interpretation. So second interpretation isn't taking a piece only, third, offering their own instead, fourth, completely rejecting or ignoring fifth. They're keeping it, but they also want to keep their personal beliefs. They want to keep beliefs themselves. And that word, and that's the word we look for, a fundamentalist. In fact, I mentioned this in one of his videos. I said, hey, you're doing very, very well, except you keep using the word fundamentalist when you talk about the problem of religion. Why? And he said, well, it's only fundamentalists that inflict their religion on others. And I said, well, what about that person's soul? Doesn't that matter? What about their kids? Doesn't that matter? even one child told that she's an evil sinner because she is born a woman, and Eve gave that apple to Adam, and women are less than men. That's why it was good that women have only been allowed to vote for the last 50 years. That one child is worth it. And her kids, and whoever she has power over. Hey, maybe her mum isn't fundamentalist, but she might be. Growing up in that house. What about the husband? If women are slaves, are cattle to men. But she's not a fundamentalist. She doesn't force it on others. But what will she allow her husband to do to a daughter? That matters. And if you're curious about his response, exile. Leaving it out. Maybe ignoring, but I think it was more exile. I'm going to ignore the parts that don't fit in with my kind of interpretation. It takes courage and character. This guy
had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy, other authority figures, were wrong. Not only was wrong, but lied to him, and that he fell for it. All of that takes so much courage and character.
It takes courage and character. And that's why they live on my soundboard. They're the sort of people who's again, everyone has a pathologos, which is the cause of their problems. That's why we're here. It's part of the rules of being a human. It's the game we're in. Therefore, philosophical midwifery should be taught in every school. Dream analysis should be taught from at least 4th grade onwards. Every day before morning tea, dream analysis. In every school, in every workplace, every human being who dreams. That's a rational society. It's like we're getting messages. It's like we're computer scientists and every day there's an error code that jumps up on your screen and we just ignore it. Oh well. But my computer program keeps crashing. We keep doing genocide. We keep doing capitalism. Oh well, let's ignore it. That's how fucking stupid we are. The messages are our dreams. The way of listening is dialectic. The problems, or the computer crashing, is the fascism, suffering, wealth inequality, torture that we face as a species. The result is extinction. Now, that sentence that I just said, long one, hopefully for people who love understanding enough, third hypothesis, might be enough for them to generate the courage and character to go on the hero's journey. Where is the hero's journey? Over here. And pull themselves out of the 6th hypothesis that opposes a true universal model of excellence and justice that is our destiny and purpose to experience as the peak experience of consciousness, the penultimate enlightenment experience, to jump into it, or be open to it, or take a trip in whatever way, or have an NDE, near-death experience, or OBE, out-of-body experience. And if they've listened enough because of their love of understanding and their empathy for other people's problems, or problems themselves, then hopefully when they have that experience, they have enough understanding of Apollo or philosophy in their background to recognize it, or maybe make them open to dream analysis. Now, one issue is the moderators. I don't think I'll be able to get through the moderators to talk to Hassan. I'm not able to get through the moderators to talk to Emma. Because while Emma's problem may be the 6th, the idiots in their chat are 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's why they're moderators and not on the show. So I've been mocked, threatened, and also I've been exiled for trying to communicate and participate in Majority Report chat. So, very rare people in the 6th. And they live on my soundboard. The sorts of people we might be interested in talking to. Now, in principle, anyone can jump into the game. But that's been my experience so far. So their issue, they want to second interpretation. They like the truth. They might even like the logos. But they don't want to openly say all beliefs are the problem. Now, we're saying scientific beliefs are not beliefs. Technically, it's a trust in understanding, because understanding is ruling, and you don't come out of a science class or an engineering class believing in shit. You come out with understanding. So really, it's understanding. And even understanding should be a stepping stone to, hey, by the way, you did really well in science, but did you use a whole bunch of principles and axioms and laws? Where do they come from? Now you're into philosophy. Now you can actually address human problems. You can go from making nuclear weapons with science to wondering whether or not you should with philosophy, because it's about the good. So the other beliefs are opposed to evidence and reason. Truth, goodness, and oneness. That's the difficulty. Now, I have in the, there's a philosopher that I enjoy listening to sometimes, and I mentioned his clip on Theo Vaughan's podcast where he was in that problem, trying to second interpretation, keep beliefs alive. But to his credit, and in all fairness, his most recent YouTube video, he did mention one line in which he said, I used to think that religion was about home and fourth hypothesis, being in a whole that's greater than yourself, whole in the physical world of appearances. And maybe all of the different religions were saying the same thing, so I could save belief itself. But lately, I've been beginning to question that if that's true. So to his credit, he may be pulling himself out of that fourth hypothesis problem, opening himself up to do what he needs to do to solve his problems and address global problems that he hasn't been able to do yet. Why? Because philosophy is 1, 2, and 3. If you are rejecting the second hypothesis with the 6th, you are not open to the third hypothesis either, because your understanding might be rational and reason-based and everything great, but won't be about the second hypothesis. As we said today, dianoia is not about beings, it's about being. While these sorts of people are a million times better than those lower down on the list, who don't even want to meet the material physical conditions. These people want, these Hassan Pikers and Emmas of the world want to meet the physical conditions of people, as opposed to 7th, 8th, 9th versions of belief, versions of ignorance, versions of 4th and 5th, who want to harm people. They don't know why some of the times. Most of the time, the reasoning is just a reverse engineering. I want to kill people and enslave people. How can I reverse engineer a way of saving that? So these people are a billion times better than them. But still, they are second level of interpretation, exiling, kicking out, banning from the chat. The logos that shows that you can't also keep belief. And that's how that problem manifests, because they're exiling the logos that says there is knowing. If you know, why would you believe someone else? And because, as we said, dianoia isn't about material conditions or beings, it's about truth and justice and reality and the mind and consciousness and our purpose and this map of the development of the soul. It's all of these things. None of this is an opinion. Everything except other than these, killing, exiling, threatening, mocking, and ignoring, which are physical things that you see, but we're talking about them in principle. So really, all of these things in this map are not physical. They have a scope over the physical world. So you will see these sixth hypothesis kind of people say, there is no knowing of God. Or my job isn't to know God, because that would be second, well, God's. And of course, because our fifth hypothesis rejection of wisdom, second and third, is a result of our fourth hypothesis beliefs. Now, they might not be religious, but they still grew up in a society or family that were. In other words, they don't know that they are God, and their job is to know that, and the gods, which of course is the self. God is the self, and God's is mind. They don't think there is such a thing because of the beliefs they haven't yet addressed. If these idiots talk about God, then there mustn't be one. No, everything you've learned about God has been a belief. You've got to get rid of that shit so you can learn the truth about the divine. That's philosophy. You have to solve your problems so you can find the truth. You have to address your human condition of beliefs and upbringing and truth. And remember, it's truth and humanness. It's always these two things. So of course they won't be. But again, they are the best people. They are the most interesting people. They're doing the best work. But again, they have the biggest haters. That guy that I said, Hassan Piker's trying to improve people's conditions. Let's all hate on him. Why, you fucking idiots? Amazon, CNN, and all of these idiots are trying to shoot her down. Maybe we shouldn't genocide innocent Palestinian children. Maybe we shouldn't triple tap a children's school in Iran. And all of these fuckheads saying, oh, you're bad, let's all shout over you like cowards. Savages. Humans are savages. In that, the higher you up through these stages of development, the more you are going to trigger the ignorance of others. That's why those people are rare. These sixth hypothesis versions of pathologos are rare. They're the better people. But of course, they have problems. That's the game. It's not a personal attack. It's what it means to be human. But hopefully, their love of understanding and their openness and curiosity and desire to do good might muster in them the courage and character to learn something new that challenges their old way of being, and the courage required to go through that. It's great. As Socrates says, even in front of Jesus, he was hesitant to talk about an axiom, as above, so below. Because unless you have a high level of intelligence, you're going to reject it. And you will not only reject it, but you'll be met with scorn. What we are doing is understanding the ways that intelligent beings, or for us human beings, souls, react negatively to truth. Truth, to their benefit. Killing, exiling, threatening, mocking, and ignoring. So, sixth is the best out of all of the problems you can have. For it to be a problem, it has to be a rejection of any one of these. physical world in parts and whole, the mind in parts and whole. Any rejection of any of those things will be a block. You can't even care about anything if you're rejecting even physical parts. You can't accept the nature of excellence or beauty or justice or the nature of problems that are solvable if you're in the eighth, reductionist or materialist. Rejecting a whole in the physical world, that's our problems. Our problems exist as a whole, which is why they're solvable. Our excellence exists as a whole, which is why it's reachable, attainable. So already you're blocked. Seventh hypothesis. If you're opposed to reasoning, then you can't participate in reasoning, obviously. It's just kill all the bad people and you'll be a tyrant or a Nazi soldier to a tyrant. That's the most common one, by the way. The Nazi soldiers, the Democrats. The tyrants, the Republicans. Fifth and fourth. Even if you're a nice old lady. Professor Dave. Sixth, you're open to the existence of reasoning, principles, causes, preconditions. That's what makes Emma and Thursday, the fun half on Thursdays. Who's the guy? Brandon. He's really insightful. And everyone says this all the time. He has his own Twitch channel now too. It's kind of a bit dorky, a bit gamer-y, but he's very insightful because he sees the causes and preconditions and principles behind what's going on. He's even has a natural aptitude for philosophy to the point that he can recognize certain keywords in people's language. He uses these principles themselves to say things like, I heard him say once, we can't know what these people are thinking, but in the absence of evidence that to show the exact nature of their problem, we can infer, and we have to use that inference to build upon. That's philosophy. One of the few people who have a natural aptitude to philosophy like that I've ever seen. And again, it's only a handful, and most of them live on my soundboard. But again, even if you're open to reason and principle and causes, so you're not in the seventh hypothesis, rejecting that, you can't do philosophy unless you also remove the sixth hypothesis block, because philosophy is reason and understanding applied to the second hypothesis. We're not just using principles or hypothesizing principles. We want to get there. Go to the party. Oh, hello, Mr. Justice. Hello, Mrs. Beauty. Good to see you. Let's spend as much time as we can in that experience so we can understand it and integrate it and remember it so we can use it to solve my problems and create my excellence within my soul. Next step, within my relationships, to participate in intimacy or sexuality and regular relationships with my beloved or beloveds in a way that generates true beauty, justice, excellence, and enlightenment, and solves any problems that may come up in my relationships. Next level, my society. Right. Yes, my society. Address our societal problems and create societal excellence. Next step, my studies. Can I read in this way? Well, not before we get to philosophy. Whatever I'm doing in my profession, whatever I'm studying, whatever I'm learning, can I apply it there? Solve problems that come up in my mastery of an intelligent thing, an intelligent subject that has a hierarchical arrangement of terms that can be understood. Music is an example. Can I overcome the problems that I face in mastering that kind of logos? Next step, the science of all sciences, philosophy. In my reading, Apollo, what we read here. Can I overcome the problems and reach the excellence and mastery of that? So those are the stages. And of course, that level allows for the mastering of the self-logos that you can apply to your soul, mind, and ultimately, even those are stages and reflections of the real thing you're mastering, self. So those sorts of people seem to be the most open because of their love of understanding and their good head and their desire for benefit, reaching excellence, improvement. That's the good heart and good head. So their desire for excellence or improvement or helping and their love of understanding might be enough for them to get into that progression in seeing it at those different levels. Relationships, mind, society, studies, self. That will lead them through this all the way to their purpose, their destiny. Now, those stages were the stages that Diotima gave Socrates in the symposium. It's a model. So, and we listen to the words. So for old mate, Professor Dave, fundamentalist was the key word we caught. And one of the difficulties is, hey, these normally when we say beliefs are a problem, we hear it from these seventh hypothesis idiots who want to kill all non-believers or use religion as an excuse to do fascism. If you are religious, you suffered that from your parents. You were raised Mormon and told you could never read Harry Potter, or you were raised whatever, Jewish or Islam or whatever, and you had to hate yourself or Christian because you're a woman. You suffered. You don't just add suffering to suffering, you fucking idiots. That's not how you solve problems. So when these good people in the sixth hypothesis have to admit beliefs are a problem and understanding the logos is what solves it, they look at other people who've used that line and they say, they're fucking Nazis. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be cruel. That's a fantastic illustration of the fourth and fifth hypothesis. They are doing fifth hypothesis rejection or opposition to truth because they are still carrying a false belief that those Nazi idiots are a model of what it means to be a teacher, a guru, or a knower. I don't want to say religions are a problem because those idiots use it to justify punishment. So long as they are still having that parental figure in their soul that they don't even know they have as a model of justice, it will block them from admitting the truth, keep them stuck in the second level of interpretation, trying to keep the good with the bad, and exiling anyone or anything that says otherwise. In other words, while they're not saying, well, I'm not just blindly obeying my parents or blindly obeying a religion or blindly obeying a politician. Yes, but you are. You are still suffering the effects from it unless you go through philosophical midwifery. That's why it's our job. It's a fantastic illustration. I don't want to say beliefs are the problem because I'm still suffering from a belief myself. How can you help people if the root cause of human problems are beliefs? How can you help people if you don't tell the truth that beliefs are a problem? Notice, we're not hurting people. We're not seventh hypothesis punishment assholes. I shouldn't say assholes. Assholes are very important. Serve an important function. Seventh hypothesis, jabroni jerks.
Oh man, that lady's certainly saying bad words.
What lady?
That's insane. Like, you need help. There's no help, actually. You need a straitjacket.
Please end kink shaming on your show.
kink shaming with a straitjacket?
Wrong. You're
Oh.
so wrong. But that's okay. We're all allowed to be wrong sometimes.
There we go. It's like you're okay. You're okay. You're allowed to be wrong. Unless we tell the truth that, hey, having cancer is not good. We're not going to hurt you for having cancer, like a Nazi might. We're going to help you overcome that difficulty. So, they don't want to say all beliefs or all religions because they are still suffering from a model of what those people who claim to address problems through punishment do. They're not punishing people for having problems. So what have we done? We've seen how the fourth, and so we can see that we can map the human soul's development with only 4 stages, but we can gain more specificity in the kinds of 4th and 5th hypothesis ignorance we have by adding these 4 negative hypotheses, and we can better understand how they function by adding the 5, well, there's 5 negative hypotheses if we add the 10th, the 5 interpretations, and the 5 ways in which human beings do their rejection: ignoring, mocking, threatening, exiling, and killing. That's analogy. We gained insight into the 7th hypothesis. What do? They threaten everyone. They threaten our species. 7th hypothesis thinkers threaten the species itself. What does it do? What's the 3rd interpretation? Takes a piece of the Logos, enough to build nuclear weapons, and just adds it to their beliefs. Oh, now I can use nukes to bring Armageddon. The Bible didn't say anything about nukes, but I can add a piece of that into the old. Oh, women get a vote now? Oh, well, for 1,000 years, Christianity has been saying, or all Abrahamic religions say, we get to treat women like cattle. We don't do that anymore? All right, we'll take a piece of that, treating women more fairly, but we'll keep everything else. 3rd hypothesis. 3rd interpretation. 7th. A piece of reason, but only a piece, to justify good guys and bad guys. A piece of there being a principle over the world, but only a piece, because that principle, that higher principle, is God versus the devil. Evil, which is enough for evil and punishment. What's that? Threatening. Threatening you with hell, threatening you with devil. Hey, you read Harry Potter, the devil will get you. You do meditation, the devil spirits will get you. You don't do soaking, whoa, you'll get STDs.
I'm just asking for some gooner men.
And you just want to ask for some gooner men.
Gooner.
You need to do soaking and be a gooner.
Queen of gooning.
Queen of gooning?
That's weird that you think that.
That is a bit weird.
They're like a goon. They're a gooner.
And if you feel like a goon, you're a gooner. All right. So we shed light on the negative hypotheses by bringing in the 5 negative interpretations and the 5 responses to threatening truths that threaten our ignorance. So what? So they're all pathologos. If you're stuck in them, they're all 4th hypothesis then. They're all rejections of truth. They're all 5th hypothesis. Now we say, if we recognize, as Socrates came to realize, that our ignorance isn't literal, our projections are not literal. When the Israeli Jews are projecting that everyone hates us because they all think that we're bad, that's not fucking true. It's a message. Look what you're doing. You are doing a genocide. You are treating Palestinians, and you're posting about it on social media, that they're cockroaches and they're savages. Not real savages in terms of allegiance to belief. That's the irony. That's what you are if you're belief-based. You're doing it. Therefore, our projections of our problems of ignorance are not literal, but they're not meaningless. This is the problem with many Eastern traditions who say if it's wrong, it must be delusion. Ninth hypothesis. No, it's not right, but it's not delusion. It's not completely empty. It's not ninth hypothesis. It's a message sent to you from self through the paradigm of mind for your development of third hypothesis understanding. So you can go through the hero's journey of removing your ignorance. Every message, therefore, involves every stage of the 5 hypotheses. They are all present. There will always be fourth hypothesis imitation of belief. In reality, if their model and copy exists, people cosplaying, there will always be a rejection of truth. So that we can always have ignorance, so we can always have a reason to learn. You can't reject that. If you do, you're 8th and 9th hypothesis. But it's not literal. It is a message about the kind of ignorance that you are here to address and learn from. Ultimately, the 5th hypothesis as a whole, as a principle, a rejection of mind, we can't know mind, we can't know wisdom, as Socrates has already given us a principle. So while individually our ignorance is a message, hey, every time you talk to that beautiful woman, you think she's going to spit on you.
Cookie maxing.
And cookie maxing.
Very interesting crap.
It's very interesting crap. Now, another person might think, oh, the woman's going to yell at you, or the woman's going to mock you. Everyone's personal blocks are different in an understandable way. So that's learning, that's midwifery. When you start to realize there is a language, you are learning and following the dialectic and the logos, following the logos, solving problems. But Socrates says, well, that's true for individuals. As a principle, the 5th hypothesis, because this is all a message about self, is a message about self. It's not literal. You're not blocked from mind. It's self is transcendent, not blocked from, but transcendent from even mind, understand, or from all 4 of those. So mind and the physical world isn't touched by the self. It's reflection, like a mirror or shadow or a scent of a flower. So while we learn about our individual reasons for ignorance, we learn that ignorance itself. So next question should be asked about the 4th hypothesis. Our allegiance to a whole in an activity of, our highest idea of one being a wholeness of parts in the physical world, feeling like a part of a greater whole when we all chant Kumbaya to Jeebus. That's not literal. You're a savage and a barbarian if you think so, according to the Hellenics. But what is it a message about self? That's what you can wonder about. How is the 4th hypothesis or belief itself not real? And if you think it's real, you're in a problem, but a message about the 1st hypothesis self. Can it be a kind of a whole that we hold on to as we hold dearly to our beliefs? Can we hold on to the whole of self in all times, in all moments? Is that a message about the state of enlightenment, the ultimate state of enlightenment? See, these are the questions you can wonder about. That wondering, if you keep it, is meditation. If you keep wondering, you can even know the self. That's the method. The dialectic, giving rise to these questions that you wonder about, using your highest vision and understanding, that's the spiritual method. So you can wonder about how 4th and 5th and 3rd and 2nd are all not literal, but reflections of higher principles inherent in the self. That's the self logos. If this unfolding through mind and physical reality is the unfolding of the self logos, we are to return through the self logos to the self. That journey is blocked by ignorance, which can manifest as an opposition to fifth, fourth, second, third, and second. So we've used our interpretations and our human savagery, ignoring, mocking, threatening, exiling, killing, responses to truth, to shed light on how ninth hypothesis is a kind of ignoring of everything. You have to ignore so much to say that there's no meaning. You have to ignore language and principles and beauty and problems and all sorts, dreams, your thoughts. That's a fifth hypothesis rejection of all logos and introduction of a problem. Eighth hypothesis, materialism. I'm okay with there being parts in the physical world, but there's no meaningful whole. It's just all chemicals firing. They're real, but nothing more than that. Do they mock? Is that a mocking of anything meaningful? Meaningful beauty. Art's just a banana on a wall, says those idiots on my YouTube ads. But he's a handsome idiot and he eats the banana with sunglasses on. Are they mocking? Do they have to be a materialist or a modern scientist? You can't just ignore everything, but you can mock them. Hey, anything higher is just woo-woo and foo-foo and fooey. And it's all woo. Excuse me, crazy Aunt Betty with your astrology? Is that a kind of mocking? What's the fourth interpretation? Offering, hey, I'm offering my alternative beliefs. When somebody says there's just the physical world, are they offering their own personal beliefs? Is that a belief? Atheism, that's one of the standard arguments against atheism. Strict atheists who say, I know that there is no, hey, is that a belief? Now, it's not a fair argument the way it's normally used because they're saying, oh, those beliefs are irrational and stupid. But isn't that a belief? No, that's understanding. But if you say, and therefore there is nothing higher, strict atheist, then yeah, falls down, doesn't it? Because that is a kind of belief if you're attached to it as a fourth hypothesis pathologos. Seventh, third, take a piece of it, but only a piece. I'm not ignoring it, I'm not mocking it, I'm taking it seriously, but only a piece of it seriously. Are they taking a piece of the logos? Admitting that there are forces and principles, but not the real logos. Only a piece to say, hey, yeah, therefore my religious beliefs about good and evil are the cause of the human problems in the world. Taking a piece. And the logos itself, do they threaten? Hey, when these people, seventh hypothesis people, get in charge, do they threaten the philosophers? Do they threaten education? Do they threaten the people? Is MAGA threatening every American right now with their concentration camps and their ICE Gestapo? Are they threatening their children's lunches and medical care for everyone? Are they threatening the world with Armageddon? Seventh hypothesis engages in threats, and even threats to our extinction, because it takes a piece of the third into as a patch on the coat of their beliefs. Sixth hypothesis. I'm not saying there's nothing. I'm not saying that there's no hole in the physical world of excellence or problems. I'm not saying there's no reason. I'm saying our reason can't be applied to a non-physical level of reality called pure being or mind. Our reasoning can only be applied to the physical world, only meeting our material needs, and that's it. That's how we tried to defeat the Nazis. Putting an end to Nazism by fighting a war, and they surrendered, but not addressing the root cause of intelligence or thinking or understanding. The German social pathologos belief, sometimes called milieu. Oh, I cracked it. Called duty above everything. Why? When the Nazis surrendered, they surrendered because their leader said that they could. Your duty has been stopped. So in other words, we didn't address the cause of Nazism. And what's back? Nazism. Elon Musk and Trump and all of those fuckers doing Nazi shit. The ICE people are Nazis. We can't reject the second hypothesis, mind as a whole, for either problems, otherwise we won't address the causes of problems, or excellence, because justice and beauty exists as things, not physical things, but beings, as ousias. They're not imaginary. They have their own force and livelihood that you can infer from that experience. Those are the gods. Eidos in Greek, mistranslated as forms. If you've heard of Plato's forms, you're being lied to. The word is eidos, which means to behold, because they are logos or aspects that you behold in that direct experience. If you reject spirituality in academia, you are in this sixth hypothesis. And as the third hypothesis is our goal, understanding if you reject the sixth, you can't learn the logos. And the logos is the third, that's the activity of the model. So if you're a sixth hypothesis rejecting of the model, you can't learn the activity. As we said, you're still probably, as far as problems go, the Emmas of the world, the Hassan, Emmas, the Hassans, the Professor Richards of the world are rare and above everyone else. But still, they're not doing philosophy. They're not actually solving problems. Their own or others. But they're still the best of the rest. And maybe most open to it. So potential leaders of our world. In a just society. I don't know if that's going to happen, but potentially that would be in a rational species. That's the people that we would say, oh, you're probably most open to learning. And even those people can be ranked, of course. And there could be someone who's the best out of all of them. So if those are the best, we seem to have a map of all of the possible kinds of pathologos, fourth hypothesis, kinds of rejection of our own goodness, oneness, and truth, our own benefit and well-being, fifth hypothesis, by expanding these five into the negative five. Which means fifth and fourth are not negative inherently, so long as you have the logos in your back pocket, you have analogy in your back pocket, you recognize, oh yeah, I have beliefs because I was born in a family. But they're not literal, just as the fairy tales about the gods, the heroes, and God in a real society are not literal. But they're not empty. They're not it's not nihilism, it's not empty. So long as you recognize your problems are not real but not empty, you can look at them analogically. Therefore, fourth and fifth don't have to be negatives. They're problems, they're painful, but they don't have to be suffering. It's when you become identified or character maxing.
No, you're not the one that's mental. People don't logic their way into personality maxing. Requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person. And it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I?
That one, when you become identified with it, then they become a problem and a block. So what have we done? If second, third, fourth, and fifth represent second and third wisdom, fourth and fifth ignorance, but even wisdom is not real in the ultimate sense, it's the penultimate reality. It's still self participating in ousia. It's still you looking in the mirror. The beautiful, the most peak, beautiful, blissful experience of knowing and understanding of that experience is still not as good as it. Can you imagine that? You can't. That's why people who've had the second can't imagine anything greater, like Jesus, and if they get asked about its cause, they flip out. You can't imagine a greater experience because it's transcendent of experience. That's the message of the fifth hypothesis. It's transcending. It's above. Not literal, transcending in a way that you can never be known, but transcending in a higher way that you can know beyond even experience. So every one of these four hypotheses leading to the first are messages about the first and necessarily have to exist for existence to be. For there to be any creation, there has to be a creation of a copy from a model, or two things, or self and other. And without it, self would be lacking. So it wouldn't be ideal, would it? And if there can be a model and copy, that has to be a diminishment. Copy is always less. So unfolding into mediocrity and ignorance. But that's not good unless there's a way of climbing that ladder back up. There has to be an providential intelligence guiding us up that ladder. So ignorance is a kind of necessity of the human condition to learn the logos, to purify whatever false ideas of the self that prevented our higher journey beyond the physical realm, where Socrates is, according to what he said in the Phaedo. Meet me there. So for there to be creation or unfolding and a return, these five are necessary. If you don't recognize it in that way, as not evil, punish ignorance, sit in the corner for not knowing a math equation, go to prison for not paying your bills. Fuck that savage ignorance. No other species treats each other that way. That's seventh hypothesis. So that's a kind of rejection of what we just said about the necessity of these five as our learning. Therefore, the preventing of our growth through this would mean we have an allegiance to our false beliefs. That's the character maxing or the personality maxing.
Personality maxing.
Personality maxing. So if these four have basketball team members within the captain of the team, the LeBron James of the team, of self, because they are the lesser expressions of the self logos, just as other basketball players are lesser expressions of LeBron James, the best of the basketball men. So too, it's from our reflection, using these other analogies, interpretation, and rejections of how we reject logos personally and how we reject them in principle. We've seen these four are members of the anti-self team. What have we been seeing time and time again? Human beings are always doing the same thing, contemplating. The difference is, going back to the pyramid, our life. So this is how we unpack our dreams using the 1, 2, 3, 4 stages of the dialectic. The first thing, you work backwards in your dreams. Hey, did you come to a success or failure in your conclusion? Failure? Oh, interesting. What was the role that you played? division. Oh, you played that role. You were the Joker, or you were the jester maxing in a negative way. You were self-sabotaging yourself. You were self-sacrificing. You were trying to be a member of a group. What state of mind were you in? That caused this negative role and drama that led to this negative conclusion in your life, in your dreams, in your relationships. Can we trace that state of mind back through your history and recognize it's a pattern? Can we see, therefore, that you have an idea of yourself behind that state of mind that you don't even know you have? That's why we need midwifery to address its cause axiomatically with a principle. And if you don't accept that problems can axiomatically be solved by addressing the root idea of yourself that you are carrying, you can't play. That's the trust in the axioms. It's not always trust, because once you see, as we've been doing, that it's necessarily so and verify it, it's no longer a trust. But you have to start the game that way. Rational trust, or axiomatic trust, necessarily, as a principle, you have to. At the beginning, before you learn and test. So what? So we're seeing we are always meditating because our drama is going to conclude in a way that leads us to the true self, dialectical return to the sacred source, the self-logos, or will end in division and conflict that confirm the original. I guess I was right. Oh, I guess I sucked all along. I started believing I was a bad noodle and a small bean, and I've just confirmed it in my dream, in my fantasy, sometimes sexual fantasies. Well, yeah, them too, not just sometimes, always. I should, as Socrates says in the book, using intimacy in a philosophical, contemplative way. It's important. You are just confirming that self. Your final cause is the first cause. You're confirming that first cause of your problems. You're contemplating your problem, your pathologos. Therefore, the ruling term is the pathologos idea of yourself, or in the positive expression of life, the self-logos version of yourself. And of course, dialectic addresses the negative, the pathologos idea of yourself in midwifery, which we just went through briefly, and the positive in logos, which we're doing today. So what? So it seems that the negative hypotheses of Parmenides are expressions of the 10th hypothesis that Socrates wants us to add, rejection of the self-logos. Why? Because you can be in the 4th and 5th levels of ignorance and pursuing the self. That's the philosophical journey. That's the hero's journey. That's Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, and Frodo Baggins. You don't say, well, I'm a hero now. Really? The empire is the universe is in danger because of Darth Vader's empire? Well, okay. I guess I'm free of problems now. No. You have to overcome the problems. Meaning you're still in the 4th and 5th hypothesis. You are just using the 3rd hypothesis logos to compare it to the 2nd hypothesis truth of reality and the 1st hypothesis self to see that the 4th and 5th imitations or pseudo-ousia and logos are not real. Ousia are not real, but not empty. So this whole Buddhist idea of, well, kind of Buddhism, that, oh, thoughts are all a sickness. Bullshit. Just ignore your thoughts. Let them drift like clouds. Yeah, good luck. Good luck in having your meditation with a problem that keeps coming up because it's your mind telling you to pay attention. But not good luck. If you're a good person, not just good luck, but hey, it's not the case. You can do better. You can understand it. It's not empty. It's analogical that you see through the dialectic. So you can go, so you're still having this. That's your purification, allowing you to master the logos, because logos is both purification and perfection, giving you something to work on with your friends in a fun way. That's what life should be about. That's the return to the self, first hypothesis. an opposition to treating human ignorance and problems in a philosophical way, and an opposition to treating our wisdom and excellence, beauty and justice in a philosophical way, be it a Buddhist dude or a politician or anyone in any relationship, is our problem. It's any opposition to this is an opposition to returning to the nature of the self, because this is all a reflection of the self and the self logos. What's the opposition to the self logos? The pathologos. Therefore, the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th hypotheses are all members of the team of the 8th hypothesis, pathologos, self. Again, that means just as we can hierarchically rank the stages of our learning through the self-logos ladder, we can hierarchically rank the level of problem a person is in. For example, I know of someone who's of the best that there is, 6th hypothesis, version of pathologos. But again, they're states of mind. They also will feel doomerish at times, 9th hypothesis. Or maybe feel like we're just a bunch of billiard balls in space, 8th hypothesis. Or there is just evil in the world that we just have to put in prison, 7th hypothesis. It's where you spend most of your time that matters. But they might be mostly 6th hypothesis, using reason and understanding to address the principles, causes of problems, the causes, principles, and preconditions of problems in the physical world, only without looking at the model in pure intelligence itself. Because 6th hypothesis is a rejection of that even existing. We don't need to know the model of justice. We can just meet all people's material conditions. It's a start, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work because you are not, like defeating the Nazis, you are not addressing all of these other 3-ass groups of jerks.
You're a little bitch-ass baby.
Little bitch-ass babies who are going to oppose that. The same way, Emma was the best person by far on that CNN interview today, but everyone else was fucking killing her. Not killing her, attacking her, threatening her. If you want to help the world's problems, you have to recognize that you have to address the root cause of those that oppose. Like we said, 40% of the people, 30 to 40% of the people will always vote for Trump, even if he's got a gun in their fucking face. That's how stupid we are, potentially. That's why the pathologos is the strongest force in our reality. Even stronger than wisdom. Because you can have a wisdom experience and drop into your problem again in a day or two, or a week, or however long it takes you. Therefore, as these positive hypotheses are reflections of the self when approached through the self-logos, if we become attached to our ignorance, 4th and 5th hypothesis, we call that a pathologos, and its expression is the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So the negative hypotheses are expressions of the pathologos as the positive are of the self. Hooray, we got there. So, what's our principle that takes high level of intelligence? As Socrates says, takes a high level of intelligence for you to accept, as above, so below. So we can recognize as our mastery of the 3rd hypothesis dialectic is both a mastery of the self and the pathologos. We have to recognize the idea that the 4 kinds of expressions of the pathologos, or 5, including the pathologos leader, pathologos itself, mirror, because all of those are against our benefit. That's why we have a problem. Our problems, human problems, just one thing or 2 things. the self-logos versus the pathologos, that's it. But the categories or the kinds of pathologos, as above, in the highest sense, this is any intelligent species that develops a pathologos will have these, is reflected in our interpretations. So that's one step down. As we move from the 8th to the 7th, or the 5th to the 4th, or the 7th to the 3rd, whatever our movement through this development is, through all of them, it's not a matter of just changing, because we have that human, it's not just a matter of truth, there's also humanness, the human interpretations. Rejecting, offering your pathologos, rejecting completely, offering alternative beliefs 4. So rejecting is 3, offering alternative beliefs 4, taking a piece of the new into the old is 3, trying to unify old and new 2, to ultimately our goal, like mastery of the pathologos, 10th hypothesis, mastery of the self-logos, 1st hypothesis. Our goal is to kill or sacrifice the old. Completely. To sacrifice our pathologos self for the true self. So the first level of interpretation is just that. Jettison the old for the new. So these 5 will manifest as we go through each of the stages of a higher level. So it's as above, so below. So these are the types of pathologos that we have to address in our movement through these 5. So these 5 negative hypotheses are a lesser reflection of these greater 5, because it's an expression of our ignorance, 4th and 5th. One step down, any movement between any of these, you will go through these 5 stages of interpretations as you learn them, as you grow, as you test them, as you integrate them, as you overcome your counterattacks. And the way in which you do any of these 5 on a lower level down, so as you are offering your old beliefs, you might mock the new. So you can go through any of these 5, ignoring, mocking, threatening, exiling, killing, as you go through any of these movement of these 5 kinds of interpretation. So as you go from taking a piece of the new to trying to unify new and old, 3rd interpretation to 2nd, any of those things that are not that piece, you might ignore, or mock, or threaten, or kill, or exile, or try and kill the one trying to say, hey, you've just taken a piece in the Kabbalah. Why not go full philosophy? Fuck you, I'm going to kill you at the stake. We are Kabbalists, we kill blah, blah, blah. So these 5 can happen within any of these 5, which happen within any of these 5, which happen within these 5. So our 5 kinds of ignoring, mocking, threatening, exiling, and killing happen as we transition through these 5 kinds of interpretation, rejecting, offering alternative beliefs, taking a piece, unifying them both, or just accepting the new and getting rid of the old. So those 5 kinds of negative responses happen through the 5 kinds of interpretations. And that happens as we move through these 5 kinds of pathologos problems. And those pathologos problems we address as we move through the 5 kinds of stages of our soul's development. So even when we are participating in wisdom, we can still have a problem, 4th and 5th. We'll still have to address these negative hypotheses. And of course, that's famous in literature. So in anime, there's always a guru, or there's usually a guru who has some sort of wisdom, can do the Kamehameha, or knows the best ninjutsu, but is also still has a problem. Problem with alcohol, Jiraiya, problem with lecherousness, the copy ninja, what's his name, Kakashi, a problem with gambling, Tsunade, problem with all of them, Master Roshi in Dragon Ball Z. It's a trope. It's a trope because that seems to be what a wise person is for everyone, because they've all lacked logos. they've all lacked midwifery, apart from Socrates, Parmenides, Diotima, and Homer. Even to this day. But we're recreating the tradition, we're reinventing it, we're rediscovering it, and we've added a new term. So everything today has been an improvement on Parmenides with the guidance of this book. So really, us hand in hand with our friend Pierre. It's a kind of dialectic between us, or conversation with him leading, has allowed us to add to the tradition. And of course, that's what Socrates said. The new philosophers will have to add to the tradition and live this way. And they're not here in heaven yet. In other words, they're not real yet. They're up to us. It's up to us to live this way and do this as a way of being. Because if you're not doing third hypothesis as a way of being, you're blissing out of body, which is great. Or you're in the self, which is a permanent state. Fourth hypothesis, the real lesson was, hey, you can keep it permanently, just as these religious people or pathologos people stay permanently to their belief. It's not a message literally. Stay in the state. So you're in the state of, ultimately, you're in the state of self, keeping your state of mind in memory of that paradigm, second hypothesis, functioning with understanding, third. That's the ideal. But as you have problems, you're going to have to address all of this. So these are states of mind you can move in and out of. It's a model for everyone, for any species, that you can have this. An alien species can go through these problems, can go through these stages of learning in any dimension, any reality, whatever. It's a kind of learning that is eternal in principle, but it's also stages that you can be in as states of mind. That's the significance of the human condition in time. We're not just physical, we have mind. And not just at one moment, we have moment after moment through the passage of time. So what have we done? We've recognized, we've taken our 5 stages of the human soul to understand ignorance and human problems, wisdom and human excellence, and the first hypothesis, our ultimate destiny, or sometimes that word is used in a bad way, so I try not to use it. Our ultimate purpose, goal, and ultimate enlightenment. Let's move this over there. Which is beyond even wisdom, which is the message of the 5th hypothesis. See how fun it is? It's fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the
Childlike wonder, dude.
Enlightenment. That's the first. So we've taken the 5 stages of ignorance and human problems, wisdom, human excellence, and our purpose, our goal, our ultimate enlightenment. And we've expanded how our ignorance may function as we go through that hero's journey. And we no longer take our problems, fantasies, daydreams, tangents, and dreams analogically. Notice how dumb people have a problem with analogy? That's why. We take it literally, so we're stuck in our pathologos. We've given a title within the map for the pathologos, the 10th hypothesis, which is in opposition to the first. Because that's what it does. Because if you're just going through these stages, you are returning to the self, so you're not in opposition to it. I change the... We've added the 10th hypothesis to Parmenides, which has been the greatest work of philosophy up until now. Because this book is such a fucking banger, and we're doing such great work. Hooray for us. Go home, children, you're drunk.
She's a moron. She's a bonked on the head individual, BHI.
I coined that.
Who is?
It's sad. And I'm sad for you.
You're a baby. You're a little baby.
Little baby.
Like literally suck my dick.
Oh my goodness. So we've added the 10th hypothesis, seen it's the ruling term within these 4 negative hypotheses, and then we've expanded ignorance if we take it as a pathologos and not just a stage of learning to help us master. So our problems are gifts, so long as we're in the self-logos. But if we are debating,
Debate dweeb.
then we are trying to defend our beliefs. So all of these news networks and politicians yelling at each other and all these fucking philosophers who call themselves philosophers, but they're just debating. They're just defending their pathologos ignorance instead of moving through their ignorance to master the dialectic. That's why they're only doing harm all the time. So we've seen taking, not approaching these 5 in that way is stuck in it, identified with it, so you can't character max.
Personality maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level.
Then they are being ruled by the pathologo self, which goes back to our, and the kinds of pathologos are also hierarchically ranked, the most depressing being the 9th, the most dangerous being the 7th, and the highest potential being those whose pathologos are in the 6th. But again, not always. They're states of mind. So it's a practice. We talked about streamers who are practicing being a jerk. 7th hypothesis, practice being a hater. 8th hypothesis, practicing being a doomer. 9th hypothesis. But if they practice it, that's the state, because they're streaming 8 hours a day as that character, or they're doing that job in that office as that character, then that's how they spend their life. That's their meditation. So like capitalists, they spend their whole life meditating on profit, money. So when you're saying, hey, you're feeding orphans into the orphan crushing machine, they say, I don't give a shit. I'm not meditating on human well-being or excellence or how that's going to affect my soul. I'm focused on how I can make profits for this quarter. It's the state of mind you're in that affects your development and your life and your idea of self. So practice these 3. Practice knowing yourself as the pure sight seeing itself, or pure awareness, putting awareness on awareness. Practice that, what it would be like to know everything all at once in that peak experience, 2nd, as the model of justice and beauty. And practice the dialectic at all times, 3rd hypothesis. Then you're pulling yourself into those states of mind. Well, not pulling yourself, you're allowing, because it's a natural state. So the 10th hypothesis is the ruler of these 4 negative hypotheses, which gives a greater specificity to the kinds of human ignorance that we have, just as the 1st hypothesis is the ruler, the self-logos of the 5 positives. Again, verifying pyramid head over here, our great pyramid of the human condition. There are 2 things. There's the 10th hypothesis, pathologos, or the 1st hypothesis, self-logos. Your image, state of mind, and functioning is based on either of those 2. Our life drama, these 4, based on either of those 2. And the 5 stages of the development of the self-logos, the 5 positive hypotheses. Let's get rid of that. And the your pathologos counterattack to that development is the 5 stages of interpretation. And we can also add underneath it another 5. The 5 kinds of rejections. The 5 ways of rejecting new or challenging truth. The ignoring, mocking, Ignoring, let's put it in there, why not? Ignore, mock, threaten, exile. You're not in the group anymore. You're not part of the unity anymore. You're not part of the... Actually, let's put it right underneath, because they do help us. Because of the principle of likeness, or as above, so below, that takes a high level of intelligence to accept. It's the same 5 things on a different level. Ignoring, therefore, shines light on what it means to reject the new truth and what it means to be in the 5th hypothesis. Are you ignoring philosophy when you say there's no higher mind? Are you ignoring a lot of evidence about psychic experience, drug experience, dream experience, meditation experience, near-death experience, out-of-body experiences, dance experience, sports experience, zone experience? You have to ignore a fuck of a lot to ignore mind in the materialism or rejection of the mind or self-logos. When you're in belief, are you offering an alternative belief instead of the new? You're offering an alternative, so you're not completely ignoring it. You're not addressing it, though. Is that like mocking? Not taking it seriously? Ha, that's funny, but this is what's real, you idiot. Is that right-wing comedy? Because they're pathologos-based right-wingers? This guy wants to help people. That's stupid. I like hurting people. Not addressing it. Not doing anything clever. Smug cruelty. The idea of comedy for the Joe Rogan sphere or the right-wingers. They're just mocking. They're not addressing the issue. They're saying, oh, well, I like being a Trump instead. I'm offering my alternative. You saying we should help brown people. I say we should hurt them. That's not funny. You get an applause from the Fox News audience. See how it... Because it's the same, different terms, same relationships, they can shed light on the positive hypothesis, the negative hypothesis. And why people mock. Why do people mock? Now, you can address with understanding in a funny, charming, clever, graceful way. That's real comedy. That's different than mocking. Why do they mock? Because all they can do is offer catchphrases. Why do they only have 2 jokes? Liberal tears. Yeah, there's only 2 genders. You like to do abortions. That's all they say. That's it. That's like 3 catchphrases they only use. Because they're only in belief. That's blocked from understanding. 3rd hypothesis, understanding. What's the 3rd kind of interpretation? Adapting the new to the old beliefs. That's a kind of work. You have to have some sort of understanding of the new to add it into your own tradition. Threatening. But if you're adapting the new to your old beliefs, when you're threatening someone, are you still taking on board something different from mocking? Taking something seriously to see it as a threat and to respond in kind with a threat? Do you only take a piece of the new because you see it as a threat? When Christians started saying, oh yes, women are equal to men and not cattle, even though the Bible says you can sell them as cattle and you can rape them and you can murder them, is that only because this new understanding was a threat to their religion? Therefore, they have to take a piece of it. Otherwise, prison. See? Is it fun? This is fun, right? Yes, the answer is yes. So we can have the introduction of our own pathologos. Jesus says that's why. So this is Jesus's insight. The reason why we go through interpretation is because we're dragging our pathologos into it, because that's the human condition. If it was just truth, we wouldn't have the negative hypotheses. We wouldn't have the 5 stages of interpretation. We wouldn't have the ignoring, threatening, mocking, negative response to our human species. Savagery, ignorance, primitive bullshit. Animals don't go through this. Second hypothesis, the unity of whole and part, the brilliant light of being, the paradigm. The second kind of interpretation, trying to unify, similar, but not whole and part, the old and the new. Same relationship, different terms. Not unifying whole and part, unifying pathologos and logos. And what happens to those that can't be fit into the team, into the new group, into the new unity? They are cast out. Get out of here. You're not a part. And what do we do in philosophy? Keep the conversation open. If someone wants to participate in understanding, you talk to them. If someone wants to do midwifery, you talk to them. If someone is saying, I want to do midwifery, but I want to make sure I understand the logos first, otherwise I'm just operating off belief, you address the logos first. So I've been in situations where someone says, that's wrong. When did you feel that in your past? Now, hang on a second. I haven't seen that it's wrong. I think you're being wrong, actually, by shouting over at me or ignoring the principles of midwifery. All right, no talk for you. That was a problem. What's that? Exile. Why? Because they are not open to addressing their old beliefs. Now, to that person's credit, several weeks later, they did say, I had a dream that I talked to my wife about. And to that person's credit, every other human being in that person's life has been at a lower level. And people at a lower level go through these negative responses to the higher. In other words, this is the principle. Those at a higher level are seen as a threat and trigger the savageness of others. So if someone comes along who has a rare, unique love of understanding and is being genuine, it's very, very understandable that they will see that person as lying. I don't believe you. Get out of here. It was an understandable problem, but it was still a problem. And to that person's credit, just as we gave credit to the other philosopher, saying he's seeing that maybe religion isn't worth saving. This person said, well, weeks later, I had a talk to my wife. And of course, that kind of a person needs someone dear to them and special to them to do midwifery. Who else is they going to talk to? Everyone else is going to be at a lower level. And the principle is you can't midwife someone at a level you haven't reached yourself, except under certain conditions, which may be met in a loving relationship. So the only person he probably could have talked to, except for maybe one other person, possibly, saying, oh, maybe I got that wrong. But he did say, well, I don't think so, but she thought so. So maybe he has to come back around and have a look at that. I don't know. So what's the principle? No exile. No exile. If someone's genuine and saying, oh, I just want to understand, don't say fuck off. Even if they say, oh, I think you might be facing a block. I'm not saying that as an I win a debate button.
Debate dweeb.
I'm saying it because you are a human being and you will, if this level of understanding is a threat to any old thing, and maybe you haven't had a conversation with someone like me yet that has been sufficient to trigger this problem, but also I may be wrong. The principle of midwifery is if you think this is happening, you address it with the logos to see if it is or not. You can't just believe that I have a block or believe it was something irrational. You have to see it's a problem. You need logos and pathologos midwifery. So the principle is keeping a keeping the conversation open. So it's not a matter of being perfect. You wouldn't be here if you were perfect. It's when you have that mistake, you come back the next day and say, let's examine it, or let's look at a dream. I'm open to learning, or let's bring in a third person to let's see if they can shed insight on it. You keep the conversation alive. You don't exile them if they actually are genuine in wanting to understand. Makes me wonder about reincarnation and what's on the horizon. So our goal is the first hypothesis: oneself or self-logos. Our goal in interpretation is to go to the first level of interpretation, which is non-interpretation. Just as the highest experience of self is non-experience, transcending experience. The highest knowing of self is beyond knowing. Now, better than knowing. Our highest, that's the first hypothesis. Our highest stage of interpretation is better than interpretation. It's non-interpretation, which is to accept the new truth or self-logos and reject the old beliefs or pathologos, which is the return to the sacred source, the self through the self-logos. This is all from the text, by the way. Let's move the Great Pyramid up here. So if you see Pyramid Head in the YouTube thumbnails, that's because of this. It's the Great Pyramid. What's happened here? Introduction of our own pathologos. Oh, that belongs over here. There we go. Kill. What's the very last thing you do as a specific way of rejecting a new or challenging truth or reason or logos? Kill them. So what's the Israelis doing? Murdering, genociding the Palestinians. What are the capitalist Epstein class doing in America? Setting up concentration camps, setting up a secret police, finding an excuse to station them at airports so that people can't even run away from the death camps in America. Until we wake up, we realize we're all the same, we're all on the same journey, we're all on those 5 hypotheses of truth, we're all going through these 5 interpretations of human counterattacks, and we can therefore understand these 5 kinds of negative responses to truth and understanding and our fellow human being: ignoring, mocking, threatening, exiling, and killing. And again, mocking doesn't mean comedic use of humor in understanding. In fact, one of the reasons why I'm not very as popular as some other better people whose pathologos is 6th hypothesis is because I'm not as funny, even though I do funny sound drops.
It makes sense.
That's not funny.
Honestly, on the real.
That's a funny one.
It's sad, and I'm sad for you.
Where's the one about bull testicles?
Whore?
No, that's...
Whore much? She's like a cold-hearted cunt.
Where's the bull testicle ones? Here's a long one.
Well, what about the Nationalist Socialist Party of Germany? You know what else? Mario Party. Interesting. There are 2 words in there, and I only react to shapes and colors, so it really makes you think, doesn't it? That's right. You played Mario Party ever in your life, you are a fucking Nazi. Interesting how epically owned you've just been.
Okay, that's funny to me. I'll keep that. Couldn't find the bull testicle one. Hey, that's addressing our friend yesterday. He said, "Oh, the socialists are bad because it's a rule by an elite." Why? I'm guessing because the Nazis called themselves the Socialist Party because they were fucking liars, and they knew everyone likes socialism. Socialism means care for the society. Socialism is in the name. Capitalism is to destroy the world for personal profits of one family of Epstein class people. One's fucked, one's necessary. But you know what else has the word party in the name? Mario Party. just like the Nazi party. Therefore, if you only are moved by shapes and colors, if you played Mario Party, you're a fucking Nazi. That's funny. So, mocking is different. That's just like, two genders, what's a woman? That bullshit. Which is believers, fascist, capitalist, religious people. That's there. That's why any right-wing comedian doesn't get any laughs. They just get claps. Oh, I agree with that. That's why people who go to the comedy death ship of Joe Rogan, they say it's a hellhole, and it's just fighting and people getting glassed and Nazis at the door taking away your phones and all this sort of shit. It's just fourth hypothesis. Offering my alternative beliefs through mocking. See how fun it is? The fact that we live in this as above so below reality, or the principle of likeness, allowing for analogy, allows us to see all of it and bring it all together into a whole or a oneness. It's fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
It's fun. It's wondering.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
I'm too pure.
And we're too pure, like Emma. It's too pure for those fascists on that fucking CNN show. Poor Emma. Poor Emma.
They're completely lying to you. Yeah. They're completely lying.
They were completely lying to Emma. For shame. To those people on CNN, we say, for treating Emma so badly when she is a princess compared to yous, we say to them,
you're a little bitch-ass baby.
They're little bitch-ass babies. But we understand why they're doing it, and we're understanding why, what the show should have been. There should have been a third hypothesis, dialectician, organizing the conversation through the dialectic and pointing out the ignorance of these fuckheads, being fuckheads to poor Emma.
Freaks.
Yeah, we're freaks. And how we, and what we need to do to move through it. Understanding this map, wondering about it analogically, and applying it to self. Understanding the map. Remember, dianoia isn't about beings, it's about being. This map is being. Understand this map. Third hypothesis, dianoia. Open, curious state of mind. Second hypothesis, state of mind. And applying all of it analogically to self. 1, 2, and 3. That's the ideal state of self. That's how we move through it. If we're blocked from that, even when we have our ignorant problems, apply the third hypothesis dialectic to it, analogically with an open, curious state of mind in reference to the idea of the self or your pathologos self, 10th hypothesis. So even in problems, so it's a permanent way of being that we can practice. And if it's a permanent state of mind, then you are becoming it. That's what we're here for. That's how we move through it. 3, 2, 1. Understanding, open, curious state of mind, wondering about the self. Also wondering about the pathologos pseudo or distortion or copy or distorted image, which can be represented as an objection to either one of those four. So the 10th hypothesis, pathologos self, has as its members the negative hypotheses, just as the first hypothesis self has those. Technically, the 4th and 5th are the model and activity of the pathologos, but it's not a problem if you are doing the self-logos. It's only a problem if you're identified with it, giving you the negative hypotheses here. The ways in which you can 5th hypothesis reject. The ways in which you can, the state of being you can be attached to 4th hypothesis as your personality max problem, as your idea of self. So, 5 categories of humans, injustice towards humans that happen within the 5 stages of learning through, of counterattacks of interpretation that we have when we are introducing our pathologos, which has itself 5 stages, including the thing itself as the original image as the 10th. And those come up as we go through the 5 stages of the self-logos. Mapping also to 5 cognitive functions, knowing, understanding, and its imitation in belief and shapes and colors, thinking, image thinking, opposition to real, So there's our 5. Oh, and our question is, what would be the way of knowing the self? So there's our big question. So in amongst, this is where you know you've gotten to a good part in your understanding. It has given rise to an even deeper question that can take you further. So of all the cognitive functions, what is the way of knowing the self? If it transcends, 5th hypothesis. If it can be an always being, 4th hypothesis. If it is the highest functioning of understanding, the message of the 3rd. If it's the ultimate reality, the message of the 2nd. So each of these 4 stages from ignorance through wisdom are all messages about that, which is our big question. What is it like to know the self? Those 5 things are all within 3 dimensions: self, mind, and physical. They have a model and activity of each, which means, another question, is that first hypothesis, if these other 2 have model and copy, is there a ousia, model of self, and an activity of self? Can we expand the first hypothesis into the 11th and 12th? And that means we could expand the 10th hypothesis into the 13th and 14th. So there's another question we can carry with us as we go. And of course, we are going to return to the ox-herding pictures at the end of this text, and that might help us because the first hypothesis seems to be the 9th ox-herding picture, which is also about states of mind within the Buddhist Zen tradition from, Buddhist Zen tradition, China. So that might mean if this is the 9th, where does the 10th? So there's another question. We can add to this question another question. 11th and 12th hypothesis, as well as what would be the cognitive function of the first, as knowing is the cognitive function of the 2nd, understanding, dianoia is the 3rd, and so on. Belief is the 4th. Shapes and colors is the 5th. I'll put shapes and colors in there because we did have that in the quote from the Oracle. That was a fun one. Let's hear it again while I drink some coffee.
Yes, you do get a buff for well, what about the Nationalist Socialist Party of Germany? You know what else? Mario Party. Interesting. There are 2 words in there, and I only react to shapes and colors, so it really makes you think, doesn't it? That's right. You played Mario Party ever in your life, you were a fucking Nazi. Interesting how epically owned you've just been.
Epically owned. That was for our friend yesterday who said, but socialists are Nazis. We just epically owned him. Because he was functioning in this level of shapes and colors. Shapes and colors. Image thinking. Or image thinking. So what? So these people who are engaged in image thinking, we see have as its cause belief. So the beliefs we carry are the cause of our specific image thinking. So because we are doing cognitive functions, let's move it around. The cognitive function would be image thinking, which is called shapes and colors, and functions in opposition to mind. So 5 cognitive functions, one of which we don't know. 3 levels of reality, reflecting the triad of truth, the principle of truth, the principle of true. True has to exist for there to be truth. So the true, the model of truth, and its copy, which happens to be false. It's false. It's not real. Your reflection isn't real, just as our beliefs and image thinking are not real. Ignorance isn't real. There's our true, truth, and false, represented by the hero's journey through the false, slaying those dragons to become one of the gods, and the movement through. So season 2 of this anime would be the hero rising through the ranks of the gods to become God. We mentioned and earlier in the series we've been talking about how If the self is communicating to us at all times for our benefit, then it's the isekai god. Some animes have some sort of godlike force guiding the hero's journey, and then at the end of the series, he realized that that guidance was him at his final stage, the isekai god. So we do see it sometimes in some literature or anime. So we've understood our human human negative reactions to each other, the human problems, the humanness of interpretation, the specifics of our pathologos blocks, the stages that we go through to reach enlightenment, the cognitive functions that are attached to each of them, the different, if you fancy, that's epistemology, cognitive functions, epistemology, ology means study, epistos means knowing, so how do we know cognitive functions? The objects of those cognitive functions we've put here, the model and activity in mind, which is being, the physical realm of appearances or the self. So that's ontology. Ology is a study. Ontos is being, so the study of what is or what exists. So that's just fancy terms to impress your friends.
The T-virus will transform me into an epic creation.
Right. So that will, right, epic create, yes. You can use those words and your friends will think that you are Leon Kennedy. You are the sexiest person with the sexiest fancy words. But instead of epistemology, cognitive functions, instead of ontology, levels of reality, which are the objects of those cognitive functions. So understanding is to perceive the mind, not the physical. It's being, not beings, for the bumper sticker. And we've got the gods, the heroes, and which is the gods and heroes, which is theology. Mythology and theology. It's not real, not literal. That's a problem of the sickness of religion. It's a metaphorical analogy to understand this, because this can be complicated, right? Look at it. It's funny. It's lovely colors, and we took time to go through it today. But to communicate it to others and remember it, you might want to make a story or make an anime. That's what theology is. So, did we better understand the negative hypotheses? Now, Socrates has said, if you properly understand any one of these negative hypotheses, you see within its internal logic, it assumes the existence of the thing you're rejecting. Did we get there? For people to claim that there is no physical reality or meaningful activity, does that assume that there's a meaningful activity of them rejecting it? For the fourth interpretation, mockers of problems as a whole or excellences as a whole, materialists. Are they themselves saying there is a problem to those who think that problems are understandable or excellence is achievable? Are they appealing to a principle to say principles don't exist? Seventh hypothesis, good versus bad. Who want to bring Armageddon to make things good. Is there something inherent in what they think that shows what they reject? The logos, providence, solving problems through reflection and understanding and communication, because problems are actually ignorance as a shadow and not evil as a being. Is there something inherent in that proves the thing that it rejects isn't true? I don't see it, but that's the conversation we're having. So now we've got another question, which is from this work today, the significance of the conversation with Socrates. Does something in Jesus's reasoning about God necessarily existing, Jesus's thinking or argument, Jesus' argument about God not being historical God that has a force over his chosen people, but his argument that God has to exist as a force against the devil, and the devil has to exist because there are problems in human souls, problems in human souls, and Socrates saying, hey, by the way, if there was no problems in human souls, then there'd be no place for evil to exist, and you'd defeat evil. So why don't we look at the problems in human souls? And if we can solve the problems of human souls as we all seek the good, we might have ignorant beliefs about the good, causing our shapes and colors thinking and opposing mind. The haters, the conservatives, religious, and capitalists, but they think they're doing good. Some of them willing to die for it. Therefore, if we actually solve the problem of human killing, exiling, threatening, mocking by understanding the human soul as ignorance opposing wisdom and our goal to self, have we defeated evil? And therefore, we've no need to invent a story about human problems being the devil? Therefore, showing your whole position, the only evidence of the existence of evil is human beings doing these 5 terrible things that we call evil, but actually we can understand them as our human soul's movement through ignorance, as the ways which we go through the 5 kinds of interpretation, so long as we are oblivious to, we grow up in a culture which doesn't teach from a young age the understanding of the pathologos. Therefore, if we can show that, can we disprove the 7th? And by the way, if you are saying that we need to bring Armageddon so Jesus can come back so we can solve the problem of evil and solve human problems, aren't you admitting that there has to be a possible solution to problems? So that thing that you are rejecting, you have to assume for your rejection? Is there more to it? Was that good enough? What else does Jesus say as an excuse for evil? Punishment? Did we remove that with sin? Punishment only teaches you to avoid looking at your problems and avoid getting caught. Doesn't teach you how to learn and address your problems. It's just sadism and sickness, which is tied to the idea of sin and punishing evil. The idea of God being someone who leaves his permanent state of goodness to interact with the devil doesn't seem to make sense. The idea of the devil being a supernatural thing, by definition only bad, how can it marshal its troops? Because that's a kind of goodness, of reason. How can it exist? That's a kind of goodness. So the devil can't exist as a supernatural entity in principle, if it is bad completely. Is that enough? I'm not sure, but now we know the significance of the conversation that we are in our reading because of our work today and yesterday in this map. Because this is a common one and a most dangerous. Of the 4 kinds of pathologos, the 7th is a common and most dangerous one. We want to understand how that position itself contains enough evidence and reason to necessarily prove that it can't exist, because it necessarily implies the existence of the Logos, which its whole way of being is a rejection of. So if we can see that, we can be free from it and the cause of human suffering, one of the biggest causes of human ignorance, suffering, and literally what the Israelis and the Americans with all the nukes and the bombs and the Epstein billionaire class trying to defend themselves from being caught because of punishment are saying to their troops, we need to murder enough innocent people to create an anger within the world so they retaliate, so we can have nuclear Armageddon, so Armageddon can happen and Jesus can come back. They are threatening everyone and threatening our species. Trying to kill everyone. If we can therefore understand how that very worldview and state of mind is self-defeating, we might be able to free ourselves from that state of mind when we're in it. And if we can demonstrate that well enough to ourselves and our loved ones, maybe we can become a master of the dialectic enough to be able to make that dialectical reasoning an argument to someone else, so that any fascist threatening the extinction of humanity, we can show how that position necessarily folds, because it presumes the existence of the very thing it is defined in opposition to. And the next stage is, for the best kinds of people out there, many of whom live on my soundboard, can we do a similar thing for those best people whose pathologos happens to be the sixth? So they love understanding, or they're okay with understanding, and problems existing, and excellence being. They seek excellence, they love understanding, they've got a good heart and good head. Can we make a similar position that their objection to there being a true universal principle of understanding, and equally so, beliefs being the cause of human problems, in particular pathologos, prejudice, and supernatural beliefs, can we go to make a similar argument to similar dialectic with these people, that if they love understanding enough, they might be willing to follow along and have the courage and character to push through or ignore or reject their negative responses and try and kill us, their negative interpretations to try and reject what we're saying? Can we make a similar dialectic with the best of people, the best of souls, who are open to or even love understanding? We call them good heart, good head, and also empathy, good heart. Which will have the effect of, if they're able to go through that dialectic, then they'll be open to the possibility for there to be an objective knowable truth in the second hypothesis, a spiritual experience. They'll be open to the logos, which of course is, all of these terms are non-physical principles, so they're open to the logos. And when they reflect on their own feelings of wanting to interpret or reject what we're saying in that dialectic, after their love of understanding and their good heart, after they see the logos, this is what we said earlier. This is my complaining about people who use midwifery poorly. After we've demonstrated the logos, then they can reflect on their objections along the way, to be open to the effect, to the idea of them having fourth and fifth hypothesis ignorance, which means they're open to participating in midwifery. Even if they haven't got enough understanding yet, they can be a member, a participant, they can be the subject, a pregnant party, for getting rid of their false beliefs. Therefore, if we can make this conversation to the people threatening the destruction of our species, we can improve ourselves, our relationships, and our humanity. If we can make a similar dialectic with the best of souls who are open to or love understanding, good people with a good head and good heart, that conversation might make them open to not only the second, but understanding itself and midwifery to remove problems, freeing them up or opening them up to the hero's journey. And what we need to do to reach the ultimate goal and ultimate enlightenment, the one self, the true self, or the good self. So, them's the stakes. Can we therefore help the worst of people and the best of people? By understanding sufficiently the sixth and seventh hypothesis and how we reason through it, how we participate ourselves in the dialectic of the self-logos, and how we navigate the counterattacks of the pathologos, interpretations and negative responses, so we can help the best of people, sixth hypothesis kind of problems who are open to understanding, and the worst of people, seventh hypothesis. Kings, clergy, conservatives, capitalists. Also, we have some extra questions for ourselves. What would be the cognitive function of knowing the first for us? And can we even break it down into an ousia and logos, a model and copy? Could there be an even higher way of third hypothesis? Even better than what we're doing here? And how does that relate to our dream master? Because all the way through, Socrates has been saying the highest level of dialectic is to dream analysis, because it's a communication with your guide, the dream maker. Sometimes called the dream master, but in the text it's called dream maker, so we'll use maker and maybe upgrade the name once we see more. So, what's it like to know the self? Is there a two aspects? Is there a therefore 11th and 12th hypothesis? And how does that relate to the dream maker? Of course, that would mean that could there be two kinds of pathologos? So 13th and 14th, but that's not at a bridge we are crossing because we're not at that bridge yet. So yeah, we've understood human injustice towards each other, human cruelty. Why we oppose that's these negative responses. We've understood why we oppose our benefit, the 5 kinds of interpretation. We found the model that it exists on. The pathologos, the 10th hypothesis, it's 5 kinds of expression, which is a further fleshing out of human ignorance, which is understood as the 4th and 5th, which isn't a problem so long as you're approaching it through the dialectic as the tools for, it's a message about the false idea of self you've carried with you into this life. So ignorance isn't a problem unless you're in the negative hypotheses of the pathologos, where you're debating it, defending it.
Weirdo.
Like those fuckheads abusing Emma on that show.
That's weird that you think, you know what, suck my dick.
Exactly.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now?
Emma, don't spank the oracle.
You sick fuck.
Because I'm smiling at that thought?
Absolutely gooped.
That's a gooping thought.
Damn, you really are a gooner.
Definitely.
Gooner bait.
That was gooner bait. But yeah. What a distraction. Nonsense, but we have fun.
No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave. You are crossing into new boundaries. Damn, you really are a gooner.
Crossing into new boundaries of goonership. Crazy. So, why those people happen to be the best? Because they're pathologos, or manifests as a state of mind more, not always. They talk about being sad sometimes, but having to not accept a loser ideology for losers and try and reach the best. So that the 6th hypothesis happens to be a state of mind they're more commonly in, which makes them rare and the best of all people, who haven't yet gone into midwifery, of course. So how can we talk with the best of souls, 6th hypothesis, and the worst, 7th, in a way that opens them up to their purpose and the hero's journey, which is these 5, along with our questions about what's it like to know the self, how does that relate to the dream maker, and yeah, that's it. Hooray, we got there. So, best stream so far, I must say. This book is a banger. Everything is from the book. It's a fucking masterpiece, and we're not even finished yet. But this ending part where Jesus is getting triggered and Socrates is challenging him and has to battle against Jesus's interpretation is the high point of the book. And he's saying we're defeating the devil and putting an end to the upcoming Armageddon. Them's the stakes. Putting an end to Armageddon. Let's see it in the book. So it did require us to reflect and review and have some time in the meantime before we get back to it. And there's a lot of bangers in this section. With a stroke of reasoning, says Jesus to Socrates, you would banish the thought of the upcoming Armageddon. Them's the stakes. That's what gets us out of the Shire for Frodo. That's what gets us out of the whatever for Harry Potter, the small town. That's what gets us out of the moisture farm to become a Jedi. No, it's not. That's secondary. Your own soul. No one may listen to you. You may not come across those best of people that we mentioned. You may only ever know about them from our soundboard. But you can still use this yourself. And if you are lucky enough to find someone with a good heart and good head that you can spend your time with in your relationships. And whatever level you get to, you can practice. Can you take this with you in your dreams? Can you have this state of mind in your dreams? Because that's a practice. Because you want to take this state of mind with you in your death and your reincarnation. To escape the prison of reincarnation to meet Socrates at that higher level of self. Which brings us back to that, is there a 11th and 12th hypothesis? But hooray for us.
Oh, that's slop.
Be a reasonable gooner.
For being reasonable gooners and adding to the greatest work of philosophy. Only took us 170 episodes. But we did it. All right. And we can always wonder about what it's like to know the self, or what Socrates calls sight seeing itself, or what we are calling awareness of awareness, or the axiom of axioms, but that's description. What would it like for sight to see itself? Or no, not sight, seeing to see itself, because sight refers to shapes and colors. Or, better word, what would it like to have awareness of awareness? If we can have awareness of all of these different states of mind. So in other words, as we go through this development of states of mind, there is something aware of all of them. So there is something common through all of it. So we can wonder about what's it like to know the self, which is always common, transcendent, by always wondering about what is it. Can we have awareness? Can you put awareness on your own awareness as we go through this? Because these are states of mind, and we've seen states of mind are represented as the second hypothesis, but there's a state of self beyond even that. So we can wonder about our question of what it's like to know the self by wondering or putting your awareness on awareness as we go, and take with us our question, how can we talk to the best of people whose problem manifests, again, more often in the sixth hypothesis? So open to reason. And how can we talk to the worst of people who are just one step down in the seventh? Isn't it interesting? The best and worst of people who are yet to enter philosophy are represented by that one line here, sixth and seventh. The seventh bringing in Armageddon, justifying torture, murder, and the sixth trying to bring a whole using understanding. So accepting there to be a physical world, accepting there to be a wholes of in physical world, wholes of excellence, wholes of problems, accepting reason and understanding and loving understanding, reasoning and principles, but just rejecting there'd be a knowing of those principles themselves. That's a big one. Especially when we grow up with beliefs that talk about that being woo-woo or phooey, or for hippies, or for Easterners, or for nonsense. And those who do have that experience are not philosophers. So if these are the guys that talk about a higher reality and they're idiots, then maybe there's no, you just haven't met Socrates yet. You haven't subscribed to this channel. Whoa.
I think it's so awesome.
Because we're awesome here.
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I aura mog you because I'm joy maxing so hard, that just sounds like your cortisol levels are spiking for no reason.
And here's me joy maxing and aura mogging you. See? Spirituality or the experience of the intelligence itself isn't for wackos, because look at me. I'm showing my muscles to aura mog you. Oh my god, you're so aura mogged.
It's not being crazy. It's called reaching a higher sense of being.
Yes, I'm not crazy, you're crazy. I'm not crazy, you're crazy.
I think it's so awesome.
You just said that.
Funny, cool, and accents. It's just, this is, come on.
Come on. And on that note, one more for Emma.
They're secretly turned on by it.
You're all secretly turned on by true philosophy. There we go. Can we talk to the best people in this high kind of way? Can we talk to the worst people in this high kind of way? And can we wonder about what it's like to know the self as we go? Awareness of awareness. Haven't we done well? We have. On that note, I play the music. That doesn't work all the time. On that note, thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.